नमस्कार। 5वें मनोज श्रीवास्तव मेमोरियल लेक्चर में आप सभी का जो हमारे बीच यहाँ उपस्थित हैं एवं उन सभी का भी जो दुनिया भर से YouTube लाइव के माध्यम से जुड़े हैं, आपका समस्त श्रीवास्तव परिवार की तरफ से हम तहे दिल से स्वागत करते हैं। बिहारी समाज के हर दिल अजीज, प्रख्यात एवं अतुलनीय लोक सेवक एवं शिक्षाविद स्वर्गीय मनोज श्रीवास्तव जी की याद में लोक सेवक एवं शिक्षाविद स्वर्गीय मनोज श्रीवास्तव जी की याद में हर वर्ष आयोजित किए जाने वाले इस स्मृति व्याख्यान माला की शुरुआत 2021 में हुई थी, जब नोबेल पुरस्कार विजेता प्रोफेसर अभिजीत बैनर्जी ने पहला स्मारक व्याख्यान दिया था। मनोज जी की याद को याद करने उस वर्ष एक ऐसा जनसैलाब उमड़ पड़ा, जिससे हमारे परिवार का यह विश्वास कि उनके सोच, मूल्य और आदर्शों को आगे ले जाने हेतु सबसे उपयुक्त श्रद्धांजलि एक स्मृति व्याख्यान माला का उपयोग करना होगा। उसे बल मिला और हमारा विश्वास एक दृढ़ संकल्प में बदला। 2022 में पूर्व केंद्रीय मंत्री एवं मनोज जी के प्रशासनिक गुरु श्री R.K. सिंह ने स्मृति व्याख्यान दिया। 2023 में मनोज जी के अजीज मित्र एवं विश्वविख्यात राजनीति शास्त्री प्रोफेसर आशुतोष वार्ष्णेय ने स्मारक व्याख्यान दिया और पिछले वर्ष मनोज जी के एक दूसरे खास मित्र रेमन मैग्सेसे पुरस्कार विजेता श्री P. साईनाथ ने मेमोरियल लेक्चर दिया। इसके अलावा मेमोरी शेयरिंग सेशन के माध्यम से मनोज जी के अनेक बैचमेट्स, खास मित्र और अन्य करीबी लोग ने उनसे जुड़ी अपनी यादें साझा की। ये सब आपके अटूट प्यार एवं मनोज जी के प्रति आपकी सच्ची निष्ठा एवं गहरे लगाव के कारण संभव हो पाया है। पूरा परिवार आप सभी के प्रति सदैव ऋणी रहेगा। हम सबसे पहले अपने आज के कार्यक्रम के मुख्य अतिथि भारत सरकार के पूर्व मुख्य आर्थिक सलाहकार श्री अरविंद सुब्रमण्यम जी का तहे दिल से स्वागत करते हैं, जो 5वां मनोज श्रीवास्तव मेमोरियल लेक्चर देंगे। हम स्वागत करते हैं उन सभी वक्ताओं का जो मेमोरी शेयरिंग सेशन में हिस्सा लेंगे। श्री AC वर्मा, श्री स्वाधीन क्षत्रिय, श्री विवेक सिंह, श्री उर्मिलेश, डॉक्टर NP नारायण एवं श्री रजनीश सिंह। हम उन सभी पुरस्कार विजेताओं का भी स्वागत करते हैं जिन्हें मनोज श्रीवास्तव मेमोरियल अवार्ड से सम्मानित किया जाएगा। अब शिखर, जो हमारा छोटा वाला बेटा है, उसको बुलाते हैं सर को का स्वागत करने के लिए। धन्यवाद सर, आपने अपने बेहद व्यस्त कार्यक्रम से समय निकाला और बहुत शालीनता से हमारा निमंत्रण स्वीकार किया। अदिति, हमारी बड़ी बहू अदिति अब आगे के कार्यक्रम को बढ़ाएगी।
Namaskar. It's an honor and a privilege to welcome each one of you present here today for the 5th memorial lecture. And on behalf of the family, I extend my thanks to each one attending here. As you all are aware, late Shri Manoj Shrivastava ji was amongst the most distinguished, respected and acclaimed IAS officers of the Bihar cadre, who in his 35 years of career as a public servant served the state of Bihar and especially those at the margins of society through his pro-poor, pro-people approach. while upholding the highest standards of integrity and probity in public life. He also enjoyed a formidable reputation as a serious academician, and his passion and thirst for knowledge led him to undertake rigorous research work at some of the world's finest universities. His passing away in 2020 due to COVID was a loss not just to family members, but to the entire society at large. Before we proceed with the lecture series, it is opportune to remember the life and works of the departed soul. Papa was a guiding light to one and all, a beacon of hope and promise, an optimist who believed in the potential of change, and yet a realist who never shied away from getting his hands dirty. He envisioned the contours of transformation, yet laid the edifice of possibilities firmly embedded in ground realities. They say pictures speak 1,000 words. So, the family put together a small presentation which makes a modest attempt of walking you through the life and times of the iconic bureaucrat and the remarkable public-spirited intellectual that Papa was. Pictures speak louder than words, yes, but a life of action and intent speaks loudest. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Presenting before you, in pursuit of utopia, Manoj Srivastav, A Life Remembered.
वॉल्टर हाउसर कि इस वर्क को जबरदस्त सम्मान दे रहा हूँ। मुझे ये नहीं समझ में आया, वो एनालिसिस नहीं थी, शायद फोकस नहीं था। मेरा मानना है कि एक बहुत बड़ी बात इसमें सामने निकल के आती है। स्वामी जी उस मूवमेंट को अगर लेके चले भी तो उनको बहुत क्लियर समझ में कुछ दिन समय के बाद था कि लार्ज मूवमेंट का जो डोमिनेंस है उस वक्त नेशनल मूवमेंट का, उसके साथ ये मेल नहीं खा रहा है। उसके बाद भी देयर इज अ टर्म स्पीकिंग ट्रूथ टू पावर, सबसे बड़ी डिफिकल्ट बात स्पीकिंग ट्रूथ टू पावर, एंड देयर आर टू पार्ट्स ऑफ इट। वन, यू स्पीकिंग ट्रूथ टू पावर व्हेन यू टॉक truth to the powerful state and other individuals. You speak truth also to the powerful existing institutions. और existing institutions लैंडलॉर्ड का था, वर्षों से जमा हुआ लैंडलॉर्ड के इंस्टीट्यूशंस को आप आसानी से विश्व में नहीं कर सकते थे। और उस इंस्टीट्यूशनल रियलिटी और ताकत और उनके सपोर्ट में जो ओवरऑल कांग्रेस के मूवमेंट में, नेशनल मूवमेंट के पक्ष में था, उस सब के खिलाफ स्वामी जी ने कहा यही सही है, इसलिए आई विल स्पीक ट्रूथ टू द पावर। ये ताकत बहुत कम लोगों को होती है मित्रों, और स्वामी जी की इस पर्सनैलिटी का ये पक्ष, मैं सबसे बड़ी बात, वो फेल करें, जो जीता सो सिकंदर, वो जीते नहीं लेकिन वो इतनी बड़ी बात कह गए कि है कलेजा टू स्पीक ट्रूथ टू द पावर, चाहे कुछ हो जाए। स्वामी जी
Thank you. I would like to now usher in the lecture series, the 5th memorial lecture. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest for this session's lecture, Shri Arvind Subramaniam ji. Sir is a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute of International Economics, a research organization dedicated to strengthening prosperity and human welfare in the global economy in the US. He served as the Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India between 2014 and 2018. He was Senior Fellow at the Watson Institute of International and Public Affairs at the Brown University, Distinguished Non-Resident Fellow at the Center for Global Development, Professor at Ashoka University, New Delhi, and Visiting Lecturer at the Harvard Kennedy School. As Chief Economic Advisor during 2014 to 18, Sir oversaw the publication of the Economic Survey of India, the annual publication of government's economic view of the world, which became a widely read document of Indian economy and economic policy and development. To elucidate, the 2018 edition of the survey had 20 million views from over 190 countries in the first year of its publication. He turned the CEA's office into a harbinger of reform. Major initiatives carried out during Sir's tenure included uniform nationwide goods and services tax that became the cornerstone of revenue reform of the government. Also introduced a bankruptcy code to tackle the twin balance sheet challenge, and a financial and digital platform for connectivity, popularly known as the JAM Trinity, was also introduced during his tenure. Sir has written 2 critically acclaimed books: Eclipse, Living in the Shadow of China's Economic Dominance, published in September 2011, and India's Turn, Understanding the Economic Transformation, published in 2008. But sir, my personal favorite continues to be Off Council, which is an outsider's view of the outsider's perspective of the power corridors of North Block and South Block. Sir has written extensively for many academic journals on growth, trade, development, India's economic story, and of course the World Trade Organization. His op-eds and essays have been cited and published in The Economist, Financial Times, Foreign Affairs, Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, to name a few. And he is a regular columnist in the Project Syndicate. Sir was the Assistant Director in the Research Department of the International Monetary Fund. He obtained his undergraduate degree from St. Stephen's College, his MBA from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and his MPhil and DPhil from the University of Oxford. So without further ado, I would like to invite you for your kind consent to the lecture. So the presentation would play on this laptop as well. Thank you. Is this the presentation?
Yeah.
Shall I put it on slide mode, sir?
Just read. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great honor and a privilege to be here to give this fifth Manoj Srivastava Memorial Lecture. I'm really honored because when I was first invited to speak, and then I did a little bit of usual Google searching and speaking to people about Shri Manoj Srivastava ji, and as the we saw right here, it was really a very very inspiring story of commitment, idealism, and passion, and it sort of exemplified to what I consider to be one of the highest callings that one can have, which is, the calling to do public service and to work for the government and directly and indirectly for the people. We saw many instances of all the good and great things that Shri Manoj Srivastava ji had done. But just think about it as a young IAS officer when you're actually transferred out and an entire village turns out in protest against that thing. It speaks, immensely to what this young IAS officer must have done at such an early age. So it's really a remarkable story. I think there is no, greater or better indication of what he did and what his legacy has been than to see it reflected in his family as well. I want to thank profusely Mrs. Nina Srivastava, their children Sagar, Shikhar, and Roshni, and of course their spouses Aditi and Prerna, all of whom in their own way embody the spirit of Mr. Manoj Srivastava. Some one son and daughter-in-law are in government service. Other kids are, practicing lawyers in the Supreme Court. So just wonderful to see this family, the way it's turned out. No doubt because of the inspiration of the parents, Shri Manoj Srivastava and Nina, no doubt. I think also what's remarkable is also that, when you work for government, it's very easy to kind of become cynical and lose one's sense of idealism. To be able to retain all that through all the frustrations and challenges of a career, which Mr. Manoj Srivastava did, is also really remarkable. And of course, he was a multi-dimensional personality, not just being such an able public servant, but also you had these amazing interests in academics, did so many other things. So he was really, in some ways, a multifaceted man, a kind of Renaissance man, as it were. One of the reasons I accepted this invitation also was because, that clip at the end we saw, that the family always chooses some people who kind of at least try and speak truth to power, as it were. And I was very touched that they sought me fit enough to kind of fulfill that criterion that they had. I must say, and I don't know whether we'll have a question and answer session. We can talk about that. But my own stint as Chief Economic Advisor, to the Government of India between 2014 and 18, I think showed to me a lot of things. First of all, that there is no higher calling, as I said before, than being a public servant, how exciting it is, how challenging it is, and how consequential it can be. to be a public servant. And in my own small way, I would always try and speak truth to power. I would ruffle a lot of feathers, including some important people. And I had the good fortune that my boss was Mr. Arun Jaitley, who had to, quite often go out and protect me against some of the things that I would do and say. But I think this notion of speaking truth to power is something that we must not lose in public life. I think it's absolutely essential. And that's a kind of aspiration that I certainly have, not just while in service, but thereafter as well. So, having said all this, let me turn to a much more prosaic and mundane, part of this thing, which is to talk about one of the things that I know a little bit about, and what I would call India's development challenge in an age of turbulence. I don't have to convince you that we live in an age of turbulence, because in the last, just in the last week, we've seen so many dramatic events happening, not least in terms of what President Trump has done in terms of imposing tariffs on India, the back and forth, the responses. And indeed, this has been, and what has happened in India recently with Operation Sindoor and so on. I do think this is, I live in Washington, D.C., and to me, and maybe it's a biased view of the world, it just seems that I have certainly not in my lifetime seen the world completely changed, transformed, and upended, which is leaving behind a world of just profound uncertainty about many, many things. And I'll touch upon some of these in my lecture as we go along. I don't know whether we've set aside some time for Q&A. If it's possible, that would certainly, is that possible? Okay. Afterwards, we can, okay, fine, okay. So certainly I look forward to, interacting with you and discussing some of the topics that I'm going to speak about in the question and answer session, when we interact and we can have a discussion. So here, I'll just restrict myself to talking about this. A lot of what I'm going to say, it draws upon a book that my friend and colleague Devesh Kapoor and I have written. It's coming out in October. It will be announced on Monday. It's called The Sixth of Humanity, Independent India's Development Odyssey. And I want to share some of these things from this book, as it were. So before I come to the present, I think it's useful to look back upon 75 years of Indian economic history, and to see where have we come, what have we done successfully or not so successfully. So this is a chart which shows basically 4 phases of Indian economic growth and economic policy. The first 30 years, 1950 to 1980, was the era of planning and socialism. And today it has a very bad name, as it were. Then we had a period between 1980 and 1990, which I don't know how many of you remember, is actually the era when India's economic growth actually took off. We call this a period of import substitution, because that was the first time in which we protected our markets against external competition, but then allowed our domestic private and public sector to flourish. That's when, as you can see the black line, that's when economic growth took off. Then, of course, we had 1991 to, I would say, around 2010, a period of about 20-25 years, when the Indian economy did really fantastically. All the indicators improved growth took off, poverty came down, a whole bunch of schemes were implemented, infrastructure was built up. But this was a period where, of course, all this happened in large part because under Narasimha Rao and Dr. Manmohan Singh, India opened up its economy and put behind its socialist past. And we call this the phase of neoliberalism, which in some ways I think I would call those years, the golden era of India, as it were. In many, many respects. Then what happened, of course, in 2008, we had the global financial crisis. And after that, all over the world slowed down, every economy slowed down. And in India, too, our economy has been really languishing and chugging along at a somewhat lackluster pace. But this era was marked by what Devesh and I call the period of welfarism, that really the Indian state started doing much more from a social welfare perspective. We had under the first UPA government and then under the second UPA government, we had Manrega, the food security bill, the FSA, and of course thereafter, after Mr. Modi came to power, we had things like providing access to power, electricity, toilets, bank accounts, what I call new welfarism, essentially providing the essentials of life to as many people as possible. So it was really an era where, even though the economy was not doing great, we, I think, put in place a real welfare system. And of course, in the last 5 years, not just the central government, but every state government has put in place many, many welfare schemes, culminating, of course, in the fact that now we have a whole bunch of cash transfer schemes that have been provided. There's a statistic from the ILO which says that just over the last 10 years, India, at least in about 2014, about 20% of Indians were beneficiaries of some social welfare scheme or the other. By 2024, that number had reached about 60%. So I think social welfare has really been the hallmark of the last 10, 20 years. But if you wanted to look back on this and say, look at it in a comparative sense, how has India really done? This is a chart which shows a GDP per capita, and what you don't see, it shows beginning in 1950, the Indian per capita GDP was about $1,000 per capita, and over the last 70 years, it's increased sevenfold, and the dark line you see is India. But I think the key thing to note about this in a comparative sense is that in 1950, if there were 100 countries in the world, India was number 79 in terms of the standard of living of the average Indian. So not very good. For the first 30 years, I think that number deteriorated from 79 to 85. That means we went from being the 79th poorest in terms of standards of living to the 85th poorest. So in a sense, the era of planning did set us back in terms of the average standard of living. And then over time, after 1980, but especially after 1990, as I showed, India's economic growth took off. But at the end of 75 years, if you look at the number at the very end, the number is 66. So in some ways, India is, while it has grown, in a cross-country perspective, is not even in the top half of the countries in the world. It's number 66 out of 100 in terms of the average standard of living of the average Indian. So overall, over 75 years, I think one could say that the performance was deteriorated quite a bit in the first 30 years, improved a fair amount, but still, we are still lagging way behind, and there's absolutely no cause for triumphalism because we are not even amongst the top 50 richest nations in the world in terms of the average Indian. We're kind of 66 out of 100, as it were. So this should kind of be a sobering thought that, the development challenges that lie ahead are really, quite immense going forward. So one critique of economists is that they focus too much on growth and they don't look at other indicators of development. So this is a chart which plots a human development index, which shows not just in terms of income and per capita GDP, but also in terms of health and education, how a country is doing. Here, in fact, I think the picture is actually a bit bleaker than what I showed you. Again, if you look at the dark line, that's India. In 1950, India was 63rd amongst 100. If the world had 100 countries, India was 63rd from the top. So the starting point was not great, but it wasn't abysmally bad either. But what you see over 75 years is that India goes from 63 to 69. So in terms of human development index, in a comparative sense, India has not improved its relative ranking in the world. So while we've made progress, it's not that India hasn't made progress. I think if you look at life expectancy, if you look at infant mortality, if you look at child stunting, in all of these, India has made tremendous improvements, but in a comparative sense, others have made faster improvements. So again, that should, make us a little bit sober and realistic about how much we've achieved and how much more we have left to go in terms of the development challenges. I don't want to bore you with more of these numbers, but there is something interesting that something that Devesh and I found in this, is that in terms of human development outcomes, something very puzzling happens in India. If you take something like health, for example, on life expectancy, the improvements, India has done actually quite well, again, in a relative sense. But if you look at an indicator of nutrition, which is female heights, which you see in the right-hand side chart, India's performance has been very poor. So even within development and health outcomes, we do well on some, like life expectancy, but we do very badly on nutrition, for example, reflected in female heights. Similarly, if you look at children, for example, infant mortality, how many children die within the first year of birth, we made tremendous improvements over time. You see the dark line coming down sharply, and coming down means improvement, a decline in mortality. But if you look at child stunting, we actually do not very well at all. And similarly, I could go on and on. On education, for example, if you look at enrollment, children attending school, we're now at close to 100%, almost as good as anywhere in the world. But if you look at learning outcomes in school, India still lags behind. So one obvious question that comes up is why? Why do we see, we do well on some outcomes, but not so well on other development outcomes, as it were? And our tentative explanation is that there is a bit of a pattern here. Wherever, what is required is a one-off intervention by the state, as opposed to ongoing delivery of public services. So if it's one-off, inoculation, sterilization, antibiotics, disease control, I think we do reasonably well. But where it is about the state has to provide consistent delivery, for example, in the case of nutrition or child stunting, we do much worse. So this says something about the quality of the state. Second, what we find also is wherever the central government is involved, I think we do much better. Wherever state governments are involved, we do much worse. So many of these things where the state is involved, I think it's a bit more problematic. The third pattern we find is that wherever these outcomes depend upon society and societal norms, they actually are, move much more slowly. For example, on gender equality, in many instances, there have been improvements, but because patriarchy and hierarchy are so deeply inbuilt in society, and society changes very slowly, again, we find much poorer outcomes. So when the interventions are easy and one-off, when the central government is involved, when a society is there's not too much at stake in society, outcomes improve more. But where state governments are involved, where society is involved, and where you require much more ongoing action by the state, we find that outcomes are not as good. So again, these have lessons for what the state and society should do going forward. But that being said, I think over the last 25, 30 years, we've made tremendous improvements in providing access to essentials. Remember, I called the last 15, 20 years welfareism. So if you look at access to electricity or piped water or, sanitation, clean fuel, pakka house, I think on these things, there is no question that, India has come a very, very long way, even in the last 20, 25 years. And this is really something that I think a lot of credit goes to the current government and to the previous government that emphasized this welfareism and increased access to essentials. Now, So I've given you a kind of sweeping and probably a very reductive view of Indian development over 75 years. I think let's kind of look ahead and say, what are the challenges going forward? I spoke about the age of turbulence. So one way of thinking about this is, so when we speak about India's development challenges in an age of turbulence, I think there is an external dimension and then there is an internal dimension. So the external dimension, I would say, are two forces at work which are going to be problematic for India. One is the fact that the whole world is going away from globalization, as it were, and retreating into, each country is retreating into its own walls. I think the United States, under Mr. President Trump, is the biggest example of that. But India, too, even before President Trump came into power, was also retreating back into inwardness and Atmanirbharta and all of that. Now, that's the first force. The second, of course, is technology. Everyone talks about artificial intelligence, et cetera, and there is no doubt that going forward, all those activities that were, providing jobs, there will be fewer jobs going forward, or that's at least one darker interpretation of technological progress going forward. I mean, of course, there's a third challenge, which is climate change. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I want to focus more on the globalization aspect of it. Now, why do I talk about globalization? Why has it been? The reason I speak about it is because what people don't seem to realize enough in India is that when India turned outward and globalized, we did fantastically well. And when we either retreated from it or the world retreated from it, we did much less well. So this is a chart which shows the same four phases of economic growth that I showed you. And you see the correlation with globalization is really very, very strong. In the first phase, our trade was low. We were losing global market share. That was the period of socialism where we actually grew at about 3% every year, the famous Hindu rate of growth. In 1980, we slowly started reversing that, and our fortunes, I think, took off. After 1991 is the period when we rapidly integrated with the world. Our exports, our imports grew at 15% a year in dollar terms, and that was associated with rapid economic growth. After 2010, and continuing now until today, the world retreated away from globalization. India retreated away from globalization, and the impact on the economy was absolutely clear. The Indian economy also slowed down. One of the puzzles about India and Indian economic policy is that this correlation between how well we do when we globalize and how well we don't do because we don't globalize enough is so strong, has been so strong, and yet we don't seem to have completely internalized the lessons from that. And even after 20 years of globalizing and doing very well, we on our own, for some mysterious reason, well, maybe not so mysterious, we ourselves retreated away from globalization beginning 2018 and carrying on until now. And it's one of those puzzles where, they say, failure is an orphan and success has many fathers, but here's a case where success itself became an orphan because we did very well and yet we retreated away from that. Of course, the reason I say all this is because looking ahead, we are going to be in a world where the world is, retreating from globalization. People are turning inward. They're imposing tariffs. They're imposing restrictions. How will India cope with this world? So, so one can say that purely from this outward perspective, there are three strategies for economic development now in this world where there might be deglobalization. The first strategy, which Rohit Lamba and Raghuram Rajan have articulated, which is to say, let's emphasize high-skilled services. We have advantage in that. We have a lot of talented, engineers, doctors, consultants, researchers, lawyers, etc. We have advantage in that. Let's emphasize that, and that will give us development going forward. The problem with this is you will no doubt get a lot of, dynamism, growth, etc. But this is going to be very narrowly limited to those few who have high-skilled services. Just to give you one example, if you look at the PLFS, our Periodic Labor Force Survey, and look at how much of the workforce in India does high-skilled services, the number is not 10%, it's not 5%, it's not 3%, it's about 1%. So this is a strategy that might give you growth for some time, but it will not give you inclusive development, inclusive growth, because jobs will not be available for the vast majority of the labor force. Then there's a second strategy which is associated with my co-author Danny Roderick, who's a professor at Harvard University. He says, look, you need inclusive growth, so it's time to focus on medium and low skill services. So for example, trade or tourism, things like that, because that has the advantage that it can employ a lot of people, and so you can get inclusive growth. See, the problem with that is that it's not easy to make these sectors very dynamic, and all the fears we have that technology will eat up jobs or take away jobs applies to this as well. So which comes to the last strategy, which is what I would advocate, which is that India must try and rehabilitate manufacturing export-led growth again. We failed comprehensively to generate manufacturing jobs, manufacturing exports for about 75 years. So the question is, why should we be successful now? And the answer to that is that for the first time, we have been given an opportunity to be able to revive manufacturing because of the China Plus One opportunity. As you know, all the firms, big companies like Apple, indeed all the firms are leaving China and they're trying to locate in other places, and India happens to be a location that potentially all these firms could find very attractive. and and this could provide exports and jobs to many people, because remember, the big virtue of manufacturing is that it provides jobs for low-skill services, lesser-skilled labor, which of course we have in abundance in India. So the chart on the right is shows what is the global market share of 3 countries in one of the most labor-intensive sectors, which is clothing. Provides hundreds of millions of jobs in places like China. So what the chart shows is that basically China, over the last 30, 40 years, conquered this market in low-skill exports. And at the peak, China accounted for about 40% of global exports of low-skill manufacturing. India peaked at about 3%, 4%, and it's now down to 2%. So really, we have a real opportunity to go from 2% of global market share to even 10, 11, 12%, and that would provide a lot of jobs for lots of people in India as well. So, and I am currently advising a few state governments, including Tamil Nadu, and Tamil Nadu has actually shown in the last 5 years that it can attract a lot of investment going away from China. It's getting investments in electronics, automotives, footwear, and many labor-intensive sectors, textiles. And the challenge for India now is why, if Tamil Nadu, which actually has much higher wages than other parts of the country, because Tamil Nadu is one of the richest states, why can't other states attract this manufacturing investment that is rapidly fleeing, leaving China? So I'm going to come back to this when I, spend a few minutes on Bihar. So far I've spoken about the outward challenges to development. Now let's focus on some of the domestic challenges, as it were. And I'm going to show you this complicated chart. I'm going to explain it to you in a second. And just to say that I don't want to show off, but on the flight yesterday from Delhi, I was sitting next to a very prominent Bihari politician, and I took the opportunity to show him this chart. So what this chart shows is, you can see all the states. It shows at 3 points in time, 1950, 1980, and the latest period, what was each state's per capita GDP, so the average standard of living, as a share of the national average. So if you look at 1950, the richest and the poorest states were quite close together. The richest state was about 130% of the national average. A poor state like Bihar was about 65% of the national average. In 1980, it changed a little bit, but not a whole lot. But you see now in 2022, there's been a complete divergence in the fortunes of a few states, basically Gujarat, Maharashtra, and the southern states, which have just exploded in terms of prosperity, and the poorer states, which have lagged further and further behind. And I've highlighted in red, the state that we belong to, that we're here, Bihar, which started at about 60% of the national average. Now it's about 30% of the national average. Now, I say this not to point fingers, but just to show that, if India is to progress, all those states at the bottom have to start coming towards the middle. Otherwise, India doesn't progress. Just to give you one statistic, after 1980, all those states in the south and the west and Haryana that did so well, this was the striking number that I, who had been studying this for a long time, found very, very surprising. Those southern states and Gujarat and Haryana, they grew for 40 years at the same pace as China. We think of the Chinese economic miracle as being the greatest miracle ever in the history of humanity because it transformed the lives of people over a very short period of time. It turns out that 1/3 of India, and that's the key number, only 1/3 of India performed the same miracle as China. So it's not that India was incapable of it, it's just that a small part of India was capable of it, which is 1/3 by way of population, and the remaining 2/3 has not been capable. The remaining 2/3 has performed mediocre at best, probably quite poorly at worst. So the challenge, the domestic challenge for India as we look ahead is how do we get these states, UP, Bihar, Assam, Madhya Pradesh, etc. Some of them have started to make progress. Madhya Pradesh, for example, is actually doing better in the last 10, 15 years. Rajasthan has done reasonably well. Odisha is starting to pick up. But there are states, other states like Bihar and Uttar Pradesh that actually is where I think India's development challenge is going to be the most stark looking ahead. Of course, one manifestation of this is people are leaving, exit. People are leaving, so from the poorer states. This is a chart which shows migration to the Gulf, the number of people. In the 90s, it was mostly from Kerala and the south, Tamil Nadu, Andhra. But today, most of the emigration from India to the Gulf takes place from UP, Bihar, and West Bengal. So, in a sense, people are voting with their feet against what they see as a decline in opportunity, a decline in prospects, standards of living that are not growing as fast as in other states, and public services that are not being delivered as well as in other states. Now, here's the interesting thing. I've shown you these numbers only in terms of emigration from these states to the rest of the world. But as you know, and as someone who's been in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, there's also massive emigration of people from these states, including Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, etc., to other parts of India. So exit is happening, not just people leaving to go abroad, but also to go to other parts of India. In some ways, this is not a terribly bad development, because the beauty about India is that we're one country, and if one part does very well than other parts, it's only natural and desirable that people go from other parts to take advantage of these opportunities. But the problem is that it is not a substitute for Bihar and Uttar Pradesh having to do well, because there are always going to be limits to how much this migration can happen. There will come a stage when states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka will face political difficulties accepting more and more people from other parts of the country. And therefore, while this is a good safety valve and temporary safety valve for places like Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, it is not a substitute for them having to do much better within providing jobs and opportunities within their states, rather than relying on exit as the mechanism by which the state and the people in that state prosper. Now, what should states do? I think it's no secret that the number one challenge of a state like Uttar Pradesh or Bihar is governance. That's now, governance has many dimensions, but fittingly, we hear, I mean, at this Manoj Srivastava Memorial Lecture, where in fact the heart of what I guess he and his contemporaries, his family, what they're trying to do essentially is to improve governance at all levels in Bihar and similar places. So there's no substitute for that. We can go into what this governance entails, but I think that governance has to improve. It means, providing law and order. It means, reducing corruption. It means providing, making sure that power is provided to everyone, that power is not stolen away on the way from generation to when it reaches the customer. So governance has many dimensions. It's very complicated. It's very tricky, not easy to solve. But unless these states crack the problem of governance, I think the prospects for development get much more impeded. The second thing, I want to show you this chart for one reason. I said that India as a whole did very well when it globalized. What this chart shows is the correlation between how states do, which is shown on the y-axis, and how exposed these states are to international trade, as measured by how much export these individual states export to the rest of the world. And what you find is a striking correlation. States that export more do much better than states that export less. As you can see, I think the chart is a bit messed up, but the state at the bottom in terms of exports to the rest of the world is again Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. And states that export a lot to the world are states like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, etc., etc. And there is absolutely no reason why a state like Bihar should not be exporting more agricultural products, more agro-processing products, more manufacturing, low-skill manufacturing products. So, the task of development, as it were, also means that states like Bihar should actually look to globalization and exports as a way of enhancing their development prospects. Let me, I think I've taken up a lot of your time. Let me just conclude with a few thoughts, random thoughts about the world. I think there's no doubt that the world has become much more unsettled economically and geopolitically. Wars are being started. There have been skirmishes. India itself has been involved, vis-a-vis China, vis-a-vis Pakistan. It's become a much more, a world where, territory, politics, geopolitics are getting complicated. It's also a world where in many, many countries, you find there's much more polarization. Institutions have weakened considerably, and this is not just India. You take China, you take the United States, you take the United Kingdom, you take Brazil, you take Poland, you take Turkey, you take South Africa. All these countries are facing very similar challenges to what India is facing today. So the whole drift towards, polarization, illiberalism, weakening institutions are being seen all across the world. And this is going to pose a challenge for development for all countries in the world, but also for India as well. And of course, for India, maybe these things are going to be even more important because we are such a large and diverse economy that many of this polarization and things can take an extra toll on India's development prospects compared to these other countries. The second thing that's very unusual about the world is that in 1991, when India faced a crisis, policymakers were clear generally as to what should be done. there was a kind of, we needed to liberalize, deregulate, etc., etc. But today, actually, there is no real intellectual consensus on what countries should do. People are all over the place. Some people say we should retreat from the world and deglobalize. Others are saying, no, we shouldn't. Some say we should not retreat, but do, practice forms of industrial policy, that is, the state helping the private sector more than it used to in the past. Others say, no, this is also fraught with a lot of challenges. So that's kind of the kind of intellectual consensus on policy making, as it were, has been shattered, as it were. So every country, therefore, has to find its own right method for moving forward. There is no one template which we thought we had way back in 1991 when we faced a crisis. So I think the best way to respond is therefore, many have argued, this is a 1991 type moment where what we need to do is to build our own resilience and our own competitiveness, not necessarily by retreating back to ourselves, but by seeing how we can find the right mix between, using global markets, using globalization, while minimizing the challenges and the risks that come from globalization. So that's going to be the challenge going forward. And, Dr. Vijay Kelkar, who's one of India's wisest statesmen, said, not only do you need to grow at 10% every year for our own citizens, but the best foreign policy is actually 10% economic growth. If you look at the world today and what is happening between the United States and some of its trading partners, the countries that are able to challenge what the United States is doing are the countries that are the strongest, most resilient, and the most dynamic in the world. And China, both dynamic, have their own technology, are able to do things on their own, which others are not able to. And China stands out as an example of a country that, because of rapid economic growth, because of rapid technological growth, has been able to navigate, or is certainly able to navigate the world better than other countries that don't have the same economic power, as it were. So what India needs to aspire to in this world is basically do well domestically, do well, provide growth, opportunities for its citizens. The state has to deliver better services for its citizens. But above all, when I say this, sitting in Patna, delivering the 5th Manoj Srivastava lecture, above all, it is a call to say that states like Bihar have to take up this challenge and advance in a way that if Bihar doesn't, or Uttar Pradesh doesn't for that matter, Indian economic development as a whole can never be as promising as it would be if these countries did much better. So I want to conclude by saying that I think we should all take a lesson from Shri Manoj Srivastava and his illustrious family, and kind of dedicate ourselves to the task of, how can we make India, the Indian state, the Indian society, provide, kind of take up the mantle of this development challenge and do much better for its citizens, especially for the poorer states and the citizens in them, namely states such as Bihar. So thank you very much for listening to me, and sorry for taking up so much of your time, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I am reminded of a quotation of the famous and the popular and perhaps the best known economist, John Maynard Keynes, when he said that economists should try and be more humble and competent, like dentists, in order that they become more approachable. This was 100 years ago, sir, and it gives me no less pleasure if I could go back in time and tell him that yes, economists are humble and competent as well, but at the same time, they are approachable, and in your case, sir, as a sterling career, I may add, you're approached not only by state governments, but also by institutions and think tanks to provide guidance. Thank you. I want to thank you again, sir, for a very thought-provoking lecture today on the overall Trump era changes and the challenges that we in the Indian economy face, for giving us a bird's eye view of the overall India's development story, and for also giving us the alternate strategies and versions of development that states can follow, and most importantly, for laying out those options on the table so that the states can rethink about what growth strategy they want to implement. I want to thank you on behalf of the House today, and of course on behalf of policy makers and policy implementers, us policy wonks, for not only giving us an evidence-based and informative session here, but more importantly, for the thought-provoking and out-of-the-box ideas that you presented that will help us in going back to the drawing board and perhaps rethink our strategies on what states and the country as a whole needs to do in terms of the future generational story of economics. So thank you, sir. A very, very heartfelt gratitude to you. I would now like to call upon Mausi, Mrs. Madhurima Raj, to usher in the memory sharing session. Thank you.
अच्छा अभी करना है Thank you, Aditi. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. In the words of one of his service colleagues, Shri Manoj Srivastava was like a colossus who walked amongst puny men. His larger-than-life persona, his brilliance, his erudition, his uncanny wit, his unflinching commitment to upholding the highest values in public life, and the sheer warmth of his personality ensured that he left an indelible mark on the minds and hearts of those whom he even met once. Rajya Sabha MP Professor Manoj Jha summed it up all during the first memorial when he recollected that once when Shri Manoj Srivastava called him on the phone after a 20-year-long gap and asked him, "मैं आपको याद हूँ?" Professor Jha instinctively replied, "आपको कैसे कोई भूल सकता है?" Delving deep into the treasure trove of such invaluable memories of Shri Manoj Srivastava, we now move on to the next session, the memory sharing session. Today we are honored to invite people who had been closely associated with Shri Manoj Srivastava to share their memories and experiences about him. We would love to hear about your interactions, lessons learned, and memorable moments shared with Shri Srivastava. Your stories will help us celebrate his legacy and impact upon those whose lives he touched in myriad meaningful ways. Your stories, anecdotes, and reflections about his life and work will surely inspire and motivate our audience. To start with, I would like to invite Shri Vivek Kumar Singh. The 1989 batch IAS officer, Vivek Kumar Singh, is posted as Chairman RERA after retirement. He retired as the Development Commissioner of Bihar. Apart from excelling in different government departments, he is also interested in crosswords. The World Cryptic Crossword Championship, set up by the former IAS, Shri Vivek Singh, conducted its first global event at the Nehru Center in London. Shri Singh stands tall as a seasoned crossword fanatic, reimagining what crosswords can mean in Bihar and across India. If you took a domestic flight in the 90s and flipped through Swagat, the Indian Airlines magazine, and attempted the crossword mid-air, Chances are it was Shri Singh who had set it. Welcome, Shri Singh.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Let me start by thanking the distinguished speaker for the day, Mr. Arvind Subramanian. One had actually read about him a lot, and during my stint at the Harvard Kennedy School, I used to envy your office chamber as well, which was very prominent then. And of course, hearing you today, I'm sure people from all walks of the life from Patna would be enlightened by whatever you have said. In the IAS, and we have a good number of colleagues from the service, we have a uniform surname code. Like all surnames, they ultimately boil down to sir. So Manoj Srivastava was basically Manoj sir to her, us, all of us. And the first time I heard his name when I was an IAS probationer and I had gone to ARA for Bartuhari. Bartuhari is when you go from the bride's side or the prospective bride's side to a groom's place to negotiate. And we had gone, presuming, and they took me because I was an IAS probationer, so I could impress upon the groom's side. And believe me, 80% of the conversation was not about marriage, but was about Mr. Manoj Srivastava, who was the then DM of ARA, and the way he had taken on the local political bigwigs. So that was something which hit me immediately, that an IAS officer of not a very long vintage, less than 10 years, the kind of impact he could make upon the citizenry at large was something that actually inspired me. And after a couple of years, I joined as SDO Jamtara, which was carved out, the district was carved out of Rohtas, the Kaimur district. And we had a DM, Mr. R.K. Srivastava, and Rohtas had a DM, Mr. Manoj Srivastava. And it was such an interesting thing. I was a subdivisional magistrate, that two district magistrates would take up cudgels on behalf of the districts, nothing personal about it. But both of them wanted the district to excel, to do better. So they would not compromise on anything with regard to resources, with regard to anything else. So that was the first time I actually learned that whenever you are working for an organization, you must think about it first and foremost. And that came to light once again when I was Joint Secretary Tourism in Ranchi and he was the Principal Secretary Tourism in Patna. There was a prime asset called the Birsa Vihar Market Complex, which the local people, they wanted at a much cheaper price. He was adamant. He said that this is a prime location and in no way I will budge for a price which is less than the market price. And he put forth his logic before the political masters. He convinced them, and lo and behold, at the end of the day, whatever base price he had suggested was accepted by all, and the auction which took place after that was a successful auction. So there was a man of vision who would think about a corporation, think about its profitability, think about everything else, and take on the people who wanted it at a much cheaper price. Then later on, when I was in BREDA, this is the Renewable Energy Development Agency, and he was MD Comfed, there also, he was much senior to me. And in IAS, you have 3 tiers of seniority. One, the first decade of your seniority where you could be their peer groups. Even if they are seniors to begin with, you will be DM, they'll be DM. The second group is, they'll never be your immediate bosses. They would be the bosses of your bosses. And the third group would be like Mr. Manoj Srivastava was for us. He would perpetually be senior and would be together in the service for a very long period of time. And that he was. So when I joined Rohtas as district magistrate, much after he had joined, people would always compare me. So when he came there once, they were so happy that 2 district magistrates of their liking, of course, I'm being slightly generous to myself, but they were very happy that Mr. Manoj Srivastava had just come to see as to how I was functioning. I was very proud that I had succeeded him after a decade perhaps. And of late, when he was heading the Center for Good Governance, an employee from his office came. कि सर बचा लीजिए सर, वो तो बहुत मेहनत कराते हैं, हम तो सोचे थे रिटायरमेंट के बाद वो हमको भी चैन से रहने देंगे, वो भी चैन से रहेंगे. He was one person who would never tire working hard, working for the organization, working for the state and the country, and he was not only an administrator, For us, he was also an academician. Whenever the World Bank team came or any other team came, the top officials would put him forth, and you could have seen him speaking here also. He spoke with such conviction, such authenticity that you could never take him lying down. I mean, you had to accept him. So this was Manoj Srivastava for us. We have many stories, many things, and I'm personally very happy that the family has maintained his willingness for this kind of an activity where the academics and administration, they go together. Even today, what Mr. Arvind Subramaniam has told us, whatever is conveyed, it is all about India, it is all about Bihar. We must think about it and think in the ways in which we can get our state and the country to do better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shri Singh. Your reflections captured not only his professional excellence, but also the values and integrity which Mr. Srivastava brought to public service. It was a fitting tribute to a truly distinguished officer. Thank you. The next speaker in the series is Shri Urmilesh. I would like to invite you to join us. Shri Urmilesh is a reputed Indian journalist and author. He was the executive director of Rajya Sabha TV from 2010 to 2012 and has worked in several Hindi publications like Hindustan and Bharat Times, among others. He is currently the reader's editor at NewsClick.
हेलो, क्या मुझे सुन सकते हैं आप लोग? हेलो
जी सर, यू आर ऑडिबल सर।
नीना जी,
जी जी
नीना जी सुनाई दे रहा है क्या?
जी जी सर, आवाज आ रही है सर।
मैं समझता हूं कि मेरी आवाज पहुंच रही है।
जी सर।
मैं सफर में होने के कारण कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर पा रहा हूं ठीक से। काश मैं वहां होता। देखिए, मनोज श्रीवास्तव जी से मेरा परिचय यूनिवर्सिटी के बाद पटना में हुआ। जब मैं नवभारत टाइम्स में काम करता था, दिल्ली से मेरा ट्रांसफर हुआ था और मैं यूं ही अपने दफ्तर में बैठा था जो फ्रेजर रोड पर दफ्तर था, और अचानक शाम को खबर आई कि भोजपुर में जो जिला है उसके आरा डिस्ट्रिक्ट हेडक्वार्टर और आसपास के इलाकों में मजदूरों ने, साधारण किसानों ने और दुकानदारों ने, वहाँ के नागरिकों ने सड़क जाम कर दिया है और रेलवे लाइन के आसपास भी खड़े हो गए हैं और पूरे शहर को बंद कर रखा है। आसपास के इलाकों में काफ़ी स्लोगन शाउटिंग हो रही है और वो तो मैंने पूछा कि क्या मामला है, तो मेरे स्ट्रिंगर ने, जो आरा में थे स्ट्रिंगर, वो बहुत ही सुलझे हुए आदमी थे, इस दुनिया में अब नहीं है वो, रामेश्वर उपाध्याय संभवतः उनका नाम था, अगर मैं ठीक से याद कर पा रहा हूँ, या कि वो वहाँ शायद वो या तो करस्पॉन्डेंट थे या उनकी खबर ये मेरे पास आई थी। तो मैंने उनसे पूछा कि मामला क्या है, तो कहा भाई यहाँ के जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर हैं, जिलाधिकारी हैं, उनके तबादले का आदेश जारी होने से ये सारा बाबेला मचा है। तो मैंने कहा ये कौन है? अच्छा, मैं बिल्कुल नया नया गया था दिल्ली से, तो मुझे मालूम नहीं था कि कौन वहाँ पे डीएम है या कौन है। तो उन्होंने कहा कि मनोज कुमार श्रीवास्तव है। तो मैंने कहा मनोज कुमार श्रीवास्तव, ये कौन, जेएनयू वाले तो नहीं? तो उन्होंने कहा हाँ जेएनयू वाले। मैंने कहा तो मुझे थोड़ी देर के लिए मैं खुशी से झूम उठा कि बताइए, डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट या जो बड़े अधिकारी होते हैं उनके तबादले को लेकर या उनके किसी भी काम को लेकर केवल सचिवालय या सचिवालय से जुड़े कुछ लोगों तक खबर आती है, और ये खबर पूरे बिहार क्या पूरे देश में चारों तरफ फैल रही है कि एक कलेक्टर, एक जिलाधिकारी जिसका ट्रांसफर हो रहा है और जनता सामने आ जा रही है। तो ये बड़ा अजीब मुझे लगा, बहुत ही खुशी हुई कि जिन मूल्यों को अपने छात्र जीवन में या अपने एकेडमिक लाइफ में जिन मूल्यों के साथ मनोज श्रीवास्तव ने जिया, उनको वो एक अफसर बनने के बाद भी उसको जी रहे हैं अपने ढंग से। वो अफसर के रूप में भी काम कर रहे हैं और जिन मूल्यों को जीते हुए बड़े हुए, उन मूल्यों को भी छोड़ नहीं रहे हैं। तो मुझे बहुत ही आत्मिक खुशी हुई। और फिर कुछ समय के बाद एक दफ़ा मैं गया था किसी, आई थिंक इलेक्शन नज़दीक थे या कुछ हो रहा था, मैं सासाराम की तरफ गया था। तो वहाँ भी उन दिनों मुलाकात हुई घर पे, और वहाँ भी उस समय पोस्टिंग थी। और खुदा न खास्ता उस समय शायद 2 लोग जेएनयू के ही थे उस जिले में, एक मनोज जी थे कलेक्टर, और एक डीडीसी थे संभवतः सुभाष, उनका नाम था सुभाष शर्मा, जहाँ तक मुझे याद आ रहा है। हो सकता है गलत भी हो या भूल गया हूँ, क्योंकि बहुत पुरानी बात है। और फिर हम लोग काफ़ी देर तक बातें करते रहे। फिर वर्षों के बाद जब मैं दिल्ली चला गया, चंडीगढ़ पहले गया, फिर आते जाते रहे और उनसे मुलाकात होती रही। लेकिन मैं हमेशा महसूस करता था कि वो जो एक एकेडमिक जो इंटरेस्ट उनका है या जो एक मिजाज है, शायद उस मिजाज और अफसरशाही के मिजाज के बीच का जो द्वंद्व है, उसको बहुत ही मुश्किलों के बीच वो निभा रहे हैं। और बीच में कई बार उनको कोई फेलोशिप या कोई बड़ा असाइनमेंट मिलता था। कभी मुझे याद है किसी फॉरेन यूनिवर्सिटी या किसी फॉरेन इंस्टीट्यूशंस के साथ कोई कोलैबोरेशन में कोई काम वो कर रहे थे, उस पर भी उन्होंने काफ़ी अपनी सिनॉप्सिस या अपना जो काम था उसके बारे में मुझसे चर्चा की काफ़ी देर तक। और मुझे बार बार लगता था कि अपने देश की अजीब विडंबना है कि जिस व्यक्ति को जहाँ होना चाहिए कई बार वहाँ नहीं हो पाता है। अब मैं दुनिया के सारे मुल्कों में तो नहीं घुमा हूँ, वो तो इस देश के इक्का दुक्का लोग ही घूम सकते हैं। लेकिन मैं एक जर्नलिस्ट के रूप में दुनिया में जहाँ भी गया हूँ, मैंने देखा है कि यूरोप में या ऑस्ट्रेलिया या अमेरिका, इन महाद्वीपों में लोग उपयुक्त जो लोग हैं जिस चीज़ के, वहाँ पे वो कहीं ना कहीं जगह पा जाते हैं और बेहतरीन परफॉर्म करते हैं। हमारे जैसे विकासशील देशों की सबसे बड़ी विडंबना है, मुझे माफ़ कीजिएगा ये कहने के लिए, आप लोग बहुत बड़े बड़े लोग वहाँ बैठे हैं और मैं बहुत साधारण आदमी हूँ, कि हमारे जैसे मुल्क में हो क्या रहा है और जिसके कारण हम विकसित देशों की दौड़ में नहीं शामिल हो पा रहे हैं। हालांकि हम छाती पीटते हैं कि हम चौथी या पांचवी इकॉनमी हो गए हैं और बहुत जल्दी हम तीसरी या दूसरी हो जाएंगे, लेकिन हमें लगता है कि एक बड़ी समस्या हमारे मुल्क की यह है कि जिसको जहाँ होना चाहिए वहाँ वो पहुँच नहीं पा रहा है, और कई बार पहुँच पा रहा है तो वो उस तरह से परफॉर्म नहीं कर पा रहा है जो उसे परफॉर्म करना चाहिए या जो कर सकता है। मनोज जी को देखते हुए मुझे हमेशा लगता था कि वो एक बेहतरीन किसी यूनिवर्सिटी के प्रोफेसर होते, और बहुत सारे यूनिवर्सिटी के प्रोफेसर का मतलब केवल एक क्लासरूम में बैठ कर के लड़कों के साथ बात करना नहीं, बल्कि बहुत सारे रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट पर बेहतरीन ढंग का काम करना। लेकिन अब जैसे देखिए कई ऐसे लोग हैं जो बहुत बेहतरीन काम करते हैं लेकिन उनको काम नहीं करने दिया जाता है। अब इसलिए कई बार मजबूरी में जगह नहीं मिलती है तो फिर आईएएस में अपियर होना पड़ता है, सिविल सर्विसेज में जाना पड़ता है। और वहाँ पर जिन स्टेट्स में कई बार उनकी पोस्टिंग होती है, वहाँ का जो सामाजिक और राजनीतिक और प्रशासनिक माहौल होता है, उसमें इस तेवर के अफसरान जो हैं बहुत बेहतर परफॉर्म करने की कोशिश जो कर रहे होते हैं, उनके सामने बड़ी बड़ी समस्याएं आती हैं। मैंने 1986 से 1994 के बीच में बिहार में रहा टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया ग्रुप के साथ, और मैं हर इस जिले में घूमता रहता था। मैंने बहुत सारे इलाहाबाद यूनिवर्सिटी में भी पढ़ा मैं, और जेएनयू में भी पढ़ा। दोनों यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के बहुत सारे ऑफिसर मिलते थे, और उनमें 90% ऑफिसर्स का दर्द यही रहता था कि वो जो चाहते हैं वो कर नहीं पा रहे हैं। वो जनता के लिए करना चाहते हैं, वो समाज के लिए करना चाहते हैं, लेकिन बीच में आड़े आ जाती हैं वे शक्तियां जो कि जनता की नुमाइंदगी करने के नाम पर मुश्किलात पैदा करती हैं और कोऑर्डिनेशन नहीं हो पाता। तो कई बार मुझे लगता है कि मनोज श्रीवास्तव काश केरल काडर में, कर्नाटक में, तमिलनाडु में, शायद इस तरह के प्रदेशों में होते तो बहुत बेहतरीन काम कर सकते थे, क्योंकि वहाँ बेहतरीन, मैं उन स्टेट में भी घुमा हूँ। दरअसल एक जर्नलिस्ट के तौर पे मैंने यह भी एक मेरा संयोग है कि मैं बहुत सारे स्टेट्स में कवर किया हूं, तो उन स्टेट्स में काम करने की एक हद तक आज़ादी जरूर है। एक बेहतरीन अगर अफसर है तो उसको काम करने का एक स्थान मिलता है। और जो पॉलिटिशियंस हैं, दरअसल वो भी थोड़ा, मैं ये तो नहीं कहूँगा कि बिहार में अच्छे लोग नहीं हैं, बिल्कुल हैं, पॉलिटिक्स में बहुत अच्छे लोग भी रहे हैं और हैं, लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि प्रशासनिक जो राजनीति है उसमें और ब्यूरोक्रेसी के बीच में एक बेहतर संतुलन की समस्या बिहार में पहले भी रही है और अब भी है। केबी सक्सेना साहब का उदाहरण है। और लैंड रिफॉर्म्स पर जब मैं अपनी किताब पर काम कर रहा था तो भी मैंने महसूस किया कि जैसे ही उन्होंने छेड़ा लैंड रिफॉर्म्स के इशू को, ही वॉज एडिशनल चीफ सेक्रेटरी और डिप्टी चीफ सेक्रेटरी, वॉट एवर इट मे बी, अरुण पाठक जी उस समय चीफ सेक्रेटरी थे, उनका तत्काल तबादला हो गया, वो फिर दिल्ली चले गए। तो बहुत सारे मैंने लोगों को देखा है, तो इसलिए ये बात कह रहा हूँ। तो मुझे लगता है कि वो एक बेहतरीन काम भी किया जा सकता था ब्यूरोक्रेसी में। लेकिन मैं मनोज जी से हमेशा कहता था कि आप एकेडमिशियन के रूप में बहुत शानदार परफॉर्म करते, बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स पर काम करते, कराते अपने रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स को, ये सब मैं कहता रहता था। और बाद के दिनों में वो और ज़्यादा निराश हुए, और इतना निराश हुए, बाद के दिनों का मैं जो कह रहा हूँ, तो जो कंटिन्यूटी में जो अभी चल रहा है सिलसिला, उस दौर में वो बहुत दुखी हुए, बहुत निराश हुए थे। और मैं अपने दोस्त को, पता नहीं हम दोनों उम्र में कौन बड़ा था कौन नहीं, क्योंकि मैं उनको मनोज भाई कहता था, वो मुझे उर्मिलेश भाई कहते थे, लेकिन दिल और दिमाग के बेहतरीन इंसानों में से एक मनोज श्रीवास्तव को जितना मैंने जाना, मैं बहुत प्यार के साथ आज उनको मैं श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करता हूँ और आप सबका बहुत आभार प्रकट करता हूँ कि मुझे आपने उनको याद करने का मौका दिया। हम फिर कभी ज़रूर मिलेंगे और बात करेंगे आप सबसे उनके बारे में। बाकी आप लोग उनको याद करते हैं, उनके वैल्यूज़ के साथ भी आप अपने को जोड़िए, और वरना याद करने का कोई बहुत बड़ा मतलब नहीं रहेगा। मुझे लगता है कि याद करने का मतलब जिस व्यक्ति को आप याद कर रहे हैं उसके मूल्यों को, उसके विचारों के साथ जुड़ना। बस आखिरी यही अपनी बात कहकर अपनी बात खत्म करता हूँ। नमस्कार, आदाब, सत श्री अकाल।
बहुत धन्यवाद आपके विचारों के लिए। आपकी बातों को सुनकर मुझे कुछ पंक्तियां याद आ रही हैं। कलम से निकली हर बात में वजन था, जनता का दर्द समझने का जज्बा था। न रह सके वो इस दुनिया में ज्यादा, मगर हर दिल में आज रोशन नाम उनका था। Now we move on to the next speaker. I would like to invite Shri Arun Chandra Verma. Shri Arun Chandra Verma is a decorated Indian Police Service officer who joined the service in 1979 and retired in 2014. He served as Superintendent of Police in districts like Bhagalpur, Jamshedpur and Dhanbad, worked in the Intelligence Bureau in Jammu and Kashmir during peak militancy, and received the President's Police Medal for Distinguished Service. He also served as an advisor to major companies and was appointed chairman of a Supreme Court assigned special investigation team. He retired as Director General of Police, CISF. Welcome, Shri Verma.
Hello. Madhu, am I audible?
Yes, yes, sir, you are.
Okay, thank God, because last time we had massive problems about connectivity. Yep. Thank you for having me across for this occasion where we are remembering a very old friend of mine. And Manoj and I joined the police service together way back in 1979. And the first recollection I have of him was when he was coming, I joined a couple of days late, he was coming down the corridor with his hair clipped, just like that Katora type of haircut that NPA forces on you. I burst out laughing because that was the time that generally, it was the time that Dennis Lilly and Jeff Thompson, everybody used to keep very long hair, and that was the trend. So when I saw Manoj, I wondered कि इसको क्या हो गया है? And I asked him, I said कि ये क्या हो गया? He said कि यार just you wait, अभी तेरा भी यही हाल होगा. And sure enough, the next day, महमूद मियाँ करके एक हुआ करते थे वहाँ के very celebrated barber. I've never seen a barber being celebrated in the manner that they celebrated, NPA celebrated Mahmood Mia, because he went on for ages. So Mahmood Mia worked his scissors on me and I was left with maybe even less hair than what I have now, which is 50 years down the line. So that was my first interaction. I was always impressed with Manoj's sincerity about the profession that he had chosen, even though he had taken the exam for the IAS the next year. But he was always very, very diligent. And one of the things that NPA for some odd reason teaches you is rock climbing. Now, for heaven's sake, I can't imagine somebody actually needing to have rock climbing, because at that point of time हम लोग सोचते थे कि यार ये क्या कर रहे हैं लोग, या हम लोगों को कौन सा पहाड़ पे चढ़ना है. But then I realized later on that there was lots of method in the madness there, because it gave us a lot of confidence. And Manoj, all of us who've known him, know that he was not the slimmest of the guys. So when we were having the rock climbing course, there was this chimney that you have to go through, just crawling upwards. And he was, petrified. I do remember his face when he came up. And after the rock climbing course was over, we were all asked to speak a couple of words about our experience, about what we had learned and what not. So everyone said कि यार ये तो हम लोग तो मर गए, बिल्कुल जान निकल गई, etc., etc. But Manoj, I remember, he just kind of twisted the Hanuman Chalisa and said, पेड़ पहाड़ निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे. He was so scared of the rock climbing course that he twisted the Hanuman Chalisa and said that, something which I still remember, and we often used to talk about. Now, Manoj and I, we never worked together. In the state, he left the service about 7-8 months into the training course, left for the IAS, and I was particularly happy for him because I honestly thought that he wasn't really, made for the type of task that an IPS officer would be required to do. He was more cerebral, he was more passionate, he was more diligent, he was more, what shall we say, dedicated to the service. And I felt particularly happy when he was chosen for the IAS the same year. And he left us at about 7-8 months into the training part. We ran into each other here, but as luck would have it, we never got to work together in the same place or even in the same range. हमारी कभी उससे वो बात नहीं हुई, कभी वो he was more into the west, let's say the western side of Bihar. I was into the eastern part. As luck would have it, not that I designed it, but Bhagalpur, Jamshedpur, Dhanbad, those were the places. So I never really got to work with him. But I always used to hear the good things about him, particularly what Urmilesh ji was talking about. Is a very, very well documented episode where the entire population came onto the streets and choked the railway lines कि हम जिलाधिकारी साहब को नहीं जाने देंगे. because I know of only Manoj in the IAS who commanded this kind of respect, and in the police side we have the experience of Mr. T.N. Gautam, who also, wherever he went, he earned a name for himself that people, particularly the downtrodden, the deprived sections, were not happy to see him go. But Manoj was a very good friend of mine, and we often used to meet personally because his son Sagar, God bless him, and the family, Sagar and my son, they were together in Ferguson College. They still are very, very close friends. And जब कभी भी यहाँ मुलाकात होती थी, राजवंशी नगर में थे, he was staying in a house just close to the Hanuman Mandir there. We often used to meet, and I would, it might amuse somebody, or Nina would definitely remember that I used to tell him कि मनोज तूने जीवन में सबसे अच्छा जो काम किया ना वो तूने नीना से शादी करके किया. He would get very bugged about it. क्या तुम हमेशा मुझसे यही कहते हो कि जब नीना से शादी कर ली, अरे नीना से मैंने शादी करी, उसने भी तो मुझसे शादी करी है. That was the kind of banter that used to go on between us. But I was very, very sanguine because Nina happens to be the daughter of Mr. D.N. Sahai. Mr. D.N. Sahai was a pillar, a legendary police officer in the Bihar cadre. Everybody who's worked with him would vouchsafe that. And he was like my, guardian angel in Bihar. So I presumed कि अगर D.N. Sahai साहब ने अपनी लड़की इस बंदे को दी है, तो he would be amongst the best, if not the best. That was the presumption I always drew, and I think I was right in presuming that. हमेशा उसके साथ में यहाँ पे भी अभी जब कभी भी बात होती है, I met Nina just about a month back when I had gone to Patna. सागर से मेरी बात होती रहती है, अदिति इसकी वाइफ है, शिखर, all of them, they're all very close. And I feel very proud to be associated with this family still, even after Manoj has left us for a better world, perhaps much before his time was due. But just to recollect that Manoj was one of those few officers who could actually take criticism. देखिए accolades तो बहुत लोग देते हैं, हर एक जना आकर के मुंह पे, हम लोग ऑल इंडिया सर्विस के ऑफिसर्स हैं, हर एक जना आकर के हमारे मुंह पे तो तारीफ तो सब करते हैं, बिकॉज चाहे पीठ पीछे हमसे कुछ भी कहते रहें, बट Manoj was one who could take criticism in the spirit that it was actually meant for, if it was a constructive criticism. And he and I had a running this thing that service is what comes in the name of the service that you are there, Indian Administrative Service, and I served in the Indian Police Service. So both he and I said that the emphasis should always be on the word service, and Manoj lived it. I'm so very happy to see his family doing well, and Nina is doing excellent work with an NGO that she does, she's associated with, and we keep meeting. I do wish them well. I wouldn't like to take too much of your time, but memories are the ones that will always remain. And Manoj was one that, जिसके बारे में कहा जाता है ना कि let's not grieve that he left so early. Let's rejoice. Let's be grateful to God that he was amongst us. And we should all cherish his memory. His memory will be the blessing for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Your reflections were deeply moving. Thank you for keeping his memory alive in such a sincere and touching way. We now move on to the next speaker who will be joining us virtually, Shri Swadhin Kshatriya. 1980 batch IAS of the Maharashtra cadre, Shri Swadhin Kshatriya was the Chief Secretary, Government of Maharashtra. He was appointed to organize Prime Minister Narendra Modi's pet project, Make in India in Maharashtra by the government. He was also the Municipal Commissioner of Mumbai from 2009 to 2011. He was also the first Chief Commissioner for Rights to Services, Maharashtra. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Am I audible and am I visible?
Yes, sir, you are audible. You are visible also.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to first of all thank Neena Bhabiji and Manoj and all family members for inviting me to share my experiences and memories of late Shri Manoj Srivastav. उनको लेट कहते हुए भी मुझे दर्द होता है. मेरे बहुत ही परम और अजीज मित्रों में श्री मनोज श्रीवास्तव होते और हमारी दोस्ती मुझे शब्द बयां करना मुश्किल है, एक अनोखी प्रकार की थी. अनोखी इसलिए मैं कहता हूं कि हम मुंबई या बॉम्बे एज इट वाज कॉल्ड दैट टाइम से आए सर्विस में और आप जनाब बिहार पटना से आए थे और मैं एक दिन देर से पहुंचा एकेडमी. मुझे जहां तक याद है 15 सितंबर को एकेडमी का फाउंडेशन कोर्स स्टार्ट होना था और हमें रेलवे का टिकट नहीं मिला समय पे, तो किसी तरह चेयर कार की सीट मिल गई और उससे हम 16 सितंबर को पहुंचे एकेडमी. सो आई वाज अलॉटेड अ रूम इन अ हॉस्टल कॉल्ड कटेसर कासल. I don't know whether, I think it's not there now. Katesar Castle is not part of our hostel, but that time we had shortage of accommodation. So we had taken some rented premises for the Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy at Mussoorie. So I was allotted, and it was on a hilltop. So the first time I met Manoj was, I was running for catching up with the PT around at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. And he saw me coming down the hill. तो उन्होंने मुझसे पूछा, भाई आप पहाड़ी के ऊपर से क्यों आ रहे थे? तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई वाज वेरी हैप्पी दैट समबडी एड्रेस्ड मी एज अ भाई, एज अ ब्रदर राइट ऑन द फर्स्ट डे दैट आई मेट. मैं कहा क्या करूं भाई, मेरे को वहां पे उसके ऊपर में एक रूम दे दिया गया. तो ही सेड ओ माय गॉड. एंड हमारी शुरुआत की मुलाकात पीटी में हुआ करती थी और मैं देखता था कि पीटी करने में मनोज को कोई बहुत ज्यादा खुशी या उत्साह नहीं होता था. तो जैसा कि अभी श्री अरुण वर्मा जी ने बताया कि वो पहले पुलिस में थे, तो हम मनोज से कहते थे, मनोज तुम पुलिस में थे, तुम वहां सरवाइव कैसे किए अगर तुम यहाँ के पीटी को इतना है? तो उनकी हंसी भी बड़ी जबरदस्त हुआ करती थी. और हमारे पीटी इंस्ट्रक्टर मिस्टर गायकवाड़ थे, जो कि मराठी में मुझसे बोलते थे, ये तुम्हारा दोस्त है, उसको बोलो कि वो समय पे आया करे और ठीक से पीटी किया करे. तो वहां से हमारी दोस्ती शुरू हुई. मनोज जी के अनेक पहलुओं के बारे में सभी लोग जानते हैं. उनके पैशन, उनका पढ़ाई की ओर उनका रुझान, ये सब चीज़ों पे मैं और ज़्यादा नहीं कहूँगा, लेकिन मुझे ऐसा लगा कि हमारे और उनमें कोई ऐसे वेवलेंथ थे कि जिसके कारण हमारी दोस्ती इतनी गहरी होती जा रही थी. जितना बाहर हमने उनको देखा, क्लास में एक अलग मनोज श्रीवास्तव को हम देखते थे. ही वॉज वेरी वेरी अटेंटिव टू ऑल द लेक्चर्स. और थोड़ा पीछे में हम जब बैठते थे तो बाकी हमारे सारे मित्रों में ये चर्चा होती थी कि यार ये सवाल बहुत पूछता है मनोज. एंड ही यूज्ड टू बी ऑलवेज आस्किंग क्वेश्चंस, सीकिंग क्लैरिफिकेशंस, मेकिंग सजेशंस. तो हमारे बैच में एक शब्द हुआ करता था जो कि बहुत अच्छा नहीं था. कहते थे KTP, मतलब कीन टाइप प्रोबेशनर. तो कहते थे मनोज जो है ना बड़ा कीन टाइप प्रोबेशनर है. और उनके जो प्रश्न होते थे, उनके जो सुझाव होते थे, उनमें उनका जो बाद में बताया गया कि वो JNU से अब पढ़ाई लिखाई करके आए थे, तो उसका प्रभाव जरूर दिखता था. He used to be always talking about the concerns for the marginalized sections of the society, for the downtrodden, and how it is expected of the administrators to pay more attention to those concerns over there. So he was tall, he was handsome, and we had a movie that time, if I remember correctly, called Kranti by Manoj Kumar, the famous Bollywood actor. So when Manoj used to get up for asking a question, so all batchmates used to say 1, 2, 3 Kranti, और फिर मनोज शुरू हो जाते थे उनके अपने विचार रखने के लिए. उनको अभ्यास का इतना शौक था कि सारा समय बड़ी बड़ी पुस्तकें लाइब्रेरी से बोरो करके हम बोलते थे, यार अब इतना काहे पढ़ते हो भाई, तुमने तो सबसे टॉप एग्जाम और वो भी 3rd रैंक में क्रैक कर लिया है। अभी इतना पढ़ाई करके क्या कौन सा एग्जाम लिखना है, तो पढ़ने लिखने का शौक उनको बहुत ज्यादा था। इसी प्रकार हमने देखा कि उनको क्यूरियोसिटी अलग अलग विषयों पे बहुत थी। महाराष्ट्र के बारे में उनको बहुत सारी चीजें जानने की बड़ी उत्सुकता रहती थी। हमें लंबे वॉक्स पे ले जाते थे आफ्टर डिनर, और डिनर के बाद हमारे 1-2 ऐसे मुकाम थे, रामलाल था पान वाला, बरेटो था जहाँ पे कि हम लोग अक्सर चिकन सूप पिया करते थे। लेकिन वो ये जानना चाहते थे कि महाराष्ट्र में फॉर एग्जाम्पल संत परंपरा क्या है, और कैसे तुकाराम से नामदेव तक महान संत होके गए और लोगों पर उनका प्रभाव कैसे पड़ा और लोग कैसे उनको फॉलो करते हैं। या हमारे पास महाराष्ट्र में जमीन का जो सिस्टम है, जब उनको मैंने कहा भाई हमारे पास महाराष्ट्र में बहुत बड़े पैमाने पे जमींदारी, मालगुजारी ऐसी चीजें नहीं है, हमारे यहाँ रैयतवारी हुआ करती थी। तो रैयतवारी सिस्टम के बारे में वो घंटों समझने की कोशिश करते थे कि रैयतवारी सिस्टम का कैसा विकास हुआ और उसका क्या योगदान होता है समाज को सुधारने में। और कोऑपरेटिव मूवमेंट हमारे राज्य में, महाराष्ट्र में जो सहकार मूवमेंट रही है शुगर फैक्ट्रीज के लिए या मिल्क प्रोडक्ट्स, डेयरी, टेक्सटाइल, स्पिनिंग मिल्स के बारे में, तो कोऑपरेटिव मूवमेंट क्यों सक्सेसफुल रही महाराष्ट्र में, वो हमसे जानने की बहुत कोशिश करते थे। और मुझे उस समय 22-23 साल की उम्र में जितनी जानकारी थी उतना मैं बताता था उनको कि ये कोऑपरेटिव मूवमेंट सक्सेस का राज है। तो ही वाज वेरी क्यूरियस टू नो व्हाई गुड थिंग्स हैपन इन एनी पार्ट ऑफ आवर कंट्री एंड व्हाट could be the takeaways that we could have over there. He was also having a very good sense of humor. He was not only taking part in our dramas and all literary activities, but he used to be a very good entertainment person also. और उनका एक फेवरेट था जो कई चीजें सुनाते थे, उसमें जो मुझे याद है वो था कि वो 2 फुटबॉल टीम के बीच की मैच कैसे होती है ये बताते थे हमको। और एक टीम जहां तक मुझे याद है आरा की हुआ करती थी और एक टीम छपरा की हुआ करती थी, और एक टीम के कप्तान का नाम भी मुझे याद है लल्लन प्रसाद दुबे हुआ करता था, दूसरा नाम मैं भूल गया। तो उनकी मैच का वर्णन हम लोग बहुत मजे से सुनते थे और बहुत देर तक हम लोग उसके साथ ये करते थे। हमें ये नहीं पता था कि वो हमारे बीच इतने जल्दी चले जाएंगे, क्योंकि सर्विस में हम महाराष्ट्र में और वो बिहार में रहे तो बहुत ज़्यादा संपर्क नहीं हो पाया। कल परसों कुछ दिनों पहले नीना जी का फोन आया तो उन्होंने याद किया कि स्वाधीन जी हम आखिरी बार आप लोगों से अहमदनगर में मिले। उन दिनों मैं अहमदनगर ज़िले में, जिसका अब नाम अहिल्या नगर हो गया है, मैं अहमदनगर ज़िले में CEO जिला परिषद हुआ करता था और मनोज जी सह परिवार आए हुए थे। लेकिन मैं भाभी जी को ये करेक्ट करना चाहूँगा कि उसके बाद मैं भागलपुर ज़िले में ऑब्जर्वर के रूप में नियुक्त हुआ था। कोई मुझे लगता है कि लोकसभा के इलेक्शंस थे, और भागलपुर जाते समय और आते समय मैं पटना फ्लाइट, मुंबई से पटना फ्लाइट से आता था और वहाँ से ट्रेन या रोड से जाता था। तो मैं आपके घर आया था व्हेन आई वाज गोइंग टू भागलपुर एंड यू होस्टेड मी फॉर अ वेरी sumptuous lunch which I can never forget. So we continue to be in touch, of course not on a very, very regular basis. And the last time I think we had spoken, Manoj had spoken to me, was he needed some help for a family matter in Pune. And it was a very small thing and I was able to help. And he was so touched about it. हमने कहा भाई तुम इतना मुझे एम्बैरेस ना करो, इतनी छोटी सी बात के लिए तुम इतना मुझे कह रहे हो। तो उस प्रकार की दोस्ती हमारी थी और मैं उनको हमेशा बहुत मिस करता हूँ। मुझे अफसोस है कि वो इतनी जल्दी हमारे बीच नहीं रहे। कभी सोचा ही नहीं था हमने, because he was very well built, he was tall, and I never thought that and I don't think he showed any signs of. Last time I met him was in Delhi. I had gone for a conference pertaining to land reforms, which was one of his very favorite and pet subjects, and he had come for that, representing the state of Bihar. And he participated in that, and he made so many suggestions. And that was the last time we met in Delhi for a conference. After that, it had been only on telephone that we had spoken to each other. these were the memories I thought I will share. There are several other memories pertaining. My memories are mostly of the training course that we did together in the Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy. Initially, the foundation course, and thereafter we do another about 9 to 10 months course in the academy as phase 1 and phase 2. So we shared so many memories over there, and he was very happy when for the next time मैं उनको कई बार इनवाइट करता रहा कि चलो यार एक दिन तुम मेरे साथ कटेसर काटसल ऊपर तो चलो, कहने तुम वर्णन मुझे बता दो कि वहाँ कैसे रहते हो, क्या है. So this time I went to the academy 2 years ago to interact with the new probationers. Now they are called officer trainees. So I thought I will go up the Katesar Castle. So I walked, and where I used to take hardly 5 minutes, I took almost 15 to 20 minutes to climb slowly to the Katesar Castle, and I found that it had been returned to the family to it belonged. So they all asked me, why have I come? And I said I used to stay here, and my friend used to always ask me about this place. So I came, and so I will continue to cherish his memory. And he was an outstanding officer. His reputation, his legacy, his good work had traveled long beyond Bihar, and we used to hear very good things about him. We are very proud of the work that he had done, and we will continue to cherish his memory. And I would like to also, like the earlier speaker, Mr. Urmilesh, कि मैं भी अपनी ओर से उनको अपनी श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करूंगा. नमस्कार.
Thank you, sir. Your words brought back the spirit and dedication of Shri Srivastav so vividly. We are grateful for your stories. They were a beautiful tribute. Now we move on to the second last speaker of this session, Dr. Professor N.P. Narayan, a very close associate of Shri Manoj Srivastav. Dr. Narayan was Professor of Surgery, NMCH, Patna. Being an expert surgeon, he has conducted many complicated surgeries. He also specializes in the field of orthopedics and holds a degree of MS FRCS from UK. He is also BC Roy awardee. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Madhumita. I am dignitaries in the hall. First, I am thankful to the family members to give me an opportunity to present some of my experiences in association of the great man, Sri Manoj Srivastav. Mr. Manoj Srivastav was an honest bureaucrat, a strict administrator, and a man with profound knowledge of every subject. A 1980 batch IS with a pro-poor and pro-people approach, who was known for his good governance all along his career. From the basic post of district magistrate to so many higher administrative posts, he had lots of applauses and appreciation by the people, government, and his colleagues. I was privileged to be his family doctor, and even in his absence, now also I am looking after his family as before, as and when required. In his association as a doctor, what I could realize that for any medical problem of his or of any family member, he used to contact me as a patient. But before consulting me, he used to read the possible diagnosis and management himself. And after I used to examine him or his relative, he had a discussion with me in detail about the disease and its management. Before treatment, he had a deep desire to discuss all possible investigations concerned with the illness. I was expected to convince him and justify about possible investigations to be done and treatment planned to him, then only he used to accept it. In my lifetime and medical practice of about 50 years, I had never seen a knowledgeable patient like him who used to discuss all his medical problems very gently and politely with me, and a senior doctor like me also used to be sometimes astonished to know about his level of medical knowledge on this disease. You can't advise him or the family members without convincing and satisfying fully to him. Whenever he used to come to my clinic, I used to direct my staff to stop the queue for some time, so that I could fully discuss with him. Sometimes I was amazed how could he know all about a disease and its treatment more than a doctor. This was because he was always research-minded and a desire to read and know about anything. I remember the unfortunate night when he contacted me for his cough and breathlessness. I became highly suspicious about him having corona. I advised him to immediately get admitted in a hospital, but it was his confidence, or I can say overconfidence and knowledge about the corona, that he remained that night in his house. I arranged oxygen from my clinic to his residence, but next day his condition started deteriorating. And then I became rigid to advise him to go to the hospital. On my request and advice, he got admitted in AIIMS Patna, but you will be astonished to know from AIIMS also, he used to read all his investigation and treatment and discuss on phone with me the whole treatment plan with me from the AIIMS ward. I used to request him that Manoj Babu, अभी आप बहुत गंभीर पेशेंट हैं और मरीज बन के रहिए, सब कुछ अच्छा हो जाएगा. But unfortunately, even with all our efforts, a genius, Mr. Manoj Srivastava, left us for his heavenly abode. Everybody in the society has to learn a lot from his way of governance, activities, knowledge, honesty, hardworking, attitude to help poor. I salute and pray for the soul to rest in peace and keep blessing and guiding our new generation. At the end, I appreciate and congratulate his family members to keep his memory alive by organizing yearly memorial lecture, and also thank and pay my gratitude to allow me to speak few words about the great man Manoj Babu. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing such heartfelt memories. We now move over to the last speaker of today's memory sharing session, Shri Rajneesh Kumar Singh. Shri Singh is an IAS officer and is currently posted as Commissioner Excise and IG Registration. He was also the Additional Director of Bihar Vikas Mission and has played a key role in establishing Bihar Vikas Mission to ensure the implementation in mission mode, fixation of priorities, and monitoring of achievements against targets or programs. Welcome, Shri Singh.
आज के इस स्मृति समारोह में उपस्थित डॉक्टर अरविंद सुब्रमण्यम सर, सबसे पहले विशिष्ट अतिथि के रूप में उनको देखकर, उनको पाकर, उनको सुनकर काफ़ी अच्छा लगा. यहाँ पर उपस्थित हमारे सभी वरिष्ठ पदाधिकारीगण, जिनके साथ काम करने का, सीखने का मौका लगा, और बहुत कई सारे महोदय यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं जिनके साथ लंबे समय तक एसोसिएशन रहा और उनके साथ काम करने का भी मौका मिला. विशेष रूप से मैं अनुग्रहित हूँ नीना मैडम के प्रति, जिन्होंने आज इस महत्वपूर्ण मंच से मनोज सर के बारे में अपने विचार व्यक्त करने का मौका दिया. मनोज सर के साथ मेरा काफ़ी नज़दीक का संबंध रहा. हालांकि हमसे पहले जितने वक्ता आए और जितनी बातें उन्होंने कही, वह सब मिला भी दिया जाए, कई गुना कर दिया जाए तो भी पूरा नहीं हो सकता है उनकी शख्सियत का चित्रण. वैसे इस शख्सियत के व्यक्ति के लिए मेरे जैसा सामान्य मनुष्य बहुत कुछ नहीं बता पाएगा, लेकिन फिर भी जो मेरी सीमा है, जो मेरी क्षमता है, उसके तहत मैं अपनी मेमोरी को शेयर करूंगा आपके साथ. मनोज सर के अधीन मुझे काम करने का कभी मौका नहीं मिला, लेकिन उनके साथ, उनके वैचारिक तौर पे और उनके साथ रह के उनके सिद्धांतों को मानने का, उसका अनुसरण करने का मुझे लगातार मौका मिला और आज तक कर रहे हैं। मुझे याद है उन दिनों मेरी पहली पोस्टिंग थी, वैशाली जिले में मेरी पोस्टिंग हुई थी और मुझे ऐसा लग रहा था 98 की बात है, मानो कोई युद्ध क्षेत्र में मैं आ गया हूँ, रण क्षेत्र में, जहाँ मेरी गलती ये थी कि मैं सुधारना चाहता था और जो बिचौलिए थे वो इसलिए नाराज थे कि वो इससे बिल्कुल खफा थे, वो चाहते थे कि पुरानी व्यवस्था बनी रहे। और इसी बीच मैं अपने जिला पदाधिकारी के पास गया हुआ था, वहीं पर मैंने पहली बार मनोज सर को देखा। जैसा अभी हमारे पूर्व के वक्ता ने कहा कि मनोज सर मनोज कुमार की तरह थे, तो मेरी भी पहली स्मृति उनके लिए वैसे ही है जैसे कोई स्टार हो, इतना हैंडसम पर्सनालिटी, लंबा। और उनके साथ कुछ यूएस के लोग भी थे जिन्हें हमारे क्षेत्र में लोग अंग्रेज कह के पुकारते थे कि एक साहब आए हैं जिनके साथ अंग्रेज सब आया हुआ है। आज भी हम लोग किसी भी वेस्टर्न कंट्री के आदमी को, किसी सिटीजन को अंग्रेज ही कहते हैं गांव देहात में। तो वो हमारे डीएम साहब से बात कर रहे थे कि हम कुछ रिसर्च वर्क यहाँ पे करना चाहते हैं, वैसे में मुझे कोई एक एरिया बता दीजिए जहाँ पे मैं जाऊँ। और मेरे डीएम साहब बहुत कंफर्टेबल नहीं लग रहे थे, उनको लग रहा था कि ये रिसर्च करने में पता नहीं क्या जिला में क्या निकाल देंगे और परेशानी बढ़ा देंगे, तो वो थोड़ा चाह रहे थे कहीं और चले जाइए। मैं सुन रहा था, मुझे लगा कि मेरे लिए यही सही आदमी है, मैं जिस लड़ाई को लड़ रहा हूँ, अगर सर जैसा व्यक्तित्व का साथ मिले और मार्गदर्शन मिले तो शायद मुझे बहुत मजबूती मिलेगी। तो मैंने अपने जिलाधिकारी से अनुरोध किया कि सर अगर आपकी अनुमति हो तो मैं अपने क्षेत्र में चाहता हूँ सर को ले जाना और वहाँ पे काम करना। मुझे ये भी पता नहीं था कि उनका टॉपिक क्या है, और जहाँ तक मुझे याद आता है कुछ टॉपिक था पीपुल से इन गवर्नमेंट, ऐसा करके कुछ था जिसमें था कि लोगों की जन भागीदारी सरकार में, गवर्नेंस में किस हद तक है और किस हद तक उसको होना चाहिए। आने के बाद उनके साथ उनके टीम के और प्रोफेसर्स थे यूएस के, वो लोग ग्रामीण एरिया में जा करके दिन भर घूमते थे और शाम को आकर के फिर मुझसे बात करते थे, मुझे बताते थे। और मेरे लिए तो एक मेंटर मिल गए जिनसे मैं अपनी सारी समस्याएं हल करता था कि सर मैं ऐसा कर रहा हूँ, मैं ये कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, फिर भी मैं सफल नहीं हो पा रहा हूँ। और दुनिया भर के लोग, मेरा स्थानीय जो यहाँ के जनप्रतिनिधि हैं, जो लोग हैं, जो बिचौलिए हैं, ये सब मिल करके एकमात्र उद्देश्य है कि किसी तरह से मेरे छवि को खराब करो, मेरे मनोबल को डाउन करो और मेरे खिलाफ परिवार डालो। यही उनका काम बच गया है। राष्ट्रपति के नाम खुला पत्र लिखो, जो आमतौर पे होता है एक सरकारी पदाधिकारियों के मनोबल को तोड़ने के लिए। मेरी फर्स्ट पोस्टिंग थी, मैं सीधे स्टूडेंट था, प्रोबेशन पूरा करके गया था, मुझे बहुत पार्टी पॉलिटिक्स समझ में भी नहीं आता था। उनको मैं देखता था, एक दिन आकर के बोले कि मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है कि लोगों में तुम्हारा बहुत अच्छा नाम है, कहीं भी तुम्हारे बारे में पूछते हैं तो आमतौर पे फील्ड ऑफिसर के बारे में लोग 5-10 शिकायत जरूर करते हैं, लेकिन तुम्हारी कोई शिकायत नहीं करता है। तो मैंने कहा कि सर इसलिए कि किसी का, आम आदमी का तो नुकसान करते नहीं है, बिचौलियों का नुकसान करते हैं, वो शिकायत करता है तो वो आपसे क्यों करेगा, वो तो वहाँ कर रहा है जहाँ मेरे खिलाफ मुझे डैमेज करे। अक्सर उनको देखते थे, सामने एक मेरे कार्यालय के सामने एक चाय की दुकान थी, सर जाके उस चाय के दुकान पे बैठे हुए मुझे एक दिन दिखे। मैंने कहा कि अच्छा नहीं लगता है, आप इतने सीनियर पदाधिकारी हो कि चाय की दुकान, आम आदमी आम चाय की दुकान पे आम लोगों के साथ ऐसे बैठे हुए हैं। उस दिन उनसे मुझे एक प्रेरणा मिली कि अधिकारी अपनी जगह है और वो सच्चे मायने में समाजवादी थे और प्रो पुअर थे, प्रो पीपल थे। उन्होंने बताया कि सरकार में जब आए हैं काम करने तो आपके काम करने का उद्देश्य तब तक पूरा नहीं हो जाता है जब तक आप उस आदमी को जुबान न दे दें जिसके पास कोई मददगार जिसका नहीं है, उस आदमी को लाभ नहीं दे जिसके पीछे कोई खड़ा नहीं है। जो बड़े लोग हैं, जो सक्षम लोग हैं, उनको तो मिल ही जाता है। जो कमज़ोर वर्ग के लोग हैं, जो बिल्कुल वंचित समाज के लोग हैं, उन तक कैसे सरकारी योजनाओं के लाभ को पहुँचाया जाए। दूसरा, उनसे हमने सीखा कि लोगों को लोगों की सेवा करके कैसे किस तरह से लोगों की सेवा से आपको एनर्जी मिलता है और आपको गर्व होता है। और वह प्राइड जो है वो दुनिया में कोई चीज़ नहीं दे सकता है, कोई धन, कोई दौलत, कोई गाड़ी, कोई महल उतना सेटिस्फैक्शन नहीं दे सकता है जितना किसी गरीब आदमी के आंख के आंसू को पोंछ के उसको लाभान्वित करके उसकी मदद करके होता है। और अगर सरकार की सेवा में है तो इससे बड़ा काम आपके पास कुछ भी नहीं है। मुझे याद है मेरी उन दिनों नई नई शादी हुई थी, मैं घर आता था, पत्नी पूछती थी कि आज खाने में क्या खाइएगा, तो मैं झल्ला के बोलता था कि सर मत खाओ, बाकी जो देना है दे दो। कारण ये था कि दिन भर 2-3 हजार आदमी मिलके मेरा बाजा बजा देते थे, ये वो क्या करना है समझ में नहीं आ रहा है। लेकिन मनोज सर से मिलके मैंने ये सीखा और उनके बाद, उनके मिलने के बाद से मैं उस चीज़ को एंजॉय करने लगा कि मैं इतना भाग्यवान हूँ कि 2000 लोग इस विश्वास के साथ मेरे पास आते हैं कि मैं उनकी समस्या का समाधान कर पाऊंगा। और जब भीड़ कम हो जाती थी तो मुझे लगता था कि लगता है मेरा काम करने में मेरी गति कुछ कमज़ोर हो गई है या मेरी पॉलिसी कुछ ठीक नहीं जा रही है, लोग कम आ रहे हैं। और सच्चे मायने में उनकी श्रद्धांजलि यही रही कि मैं जहाँ भी रहा आज भी उसी प्रो पीपल अप्रोच को पकड़े रहा और सर के दिखाए गए मार्ग पे मैं चलते रहा। सर सच्चे मायनों में चिंतक थे, विचारशील थे और सीखना उनके जिन में था। कोई भी चीज़ देखना, अच्छी वार्ता करना। सर से जब भी बात हुई, बाद में मैं काफ़ी वहाँ से रहते रहते उनसे जुड़ा तो जुड़ा ही रह गया। सर्किट हाउस में मुझे याद है वो एक कॉर्नर में 2 कमरे में रहते थे और सागर और शिखर दोनों छोटे छोटे बच्चे थे मेरे सामने। मैडम नाश्ता बना के देती थी, वो टिफ़िन लेके जाते थे, आज बड़े हो गए, लेकिन दोनों को देख के लगता है कि सर का झलक दोनों में आया है और दोनों सही मायने में उनकी प्रतिकृति की तरह लगते हैं। अच्छा लगता है देख के बच्चों को। और उस समय भी लंबी वार्ता, सर से बात होती थी तो 10-20 मिनट में बात नहीं होती थी, कम से कम घंटा भर। और मुझे लगता था कोई अन्य एंगेजमेंट नहीं हो तो सर के साथ अनवरत बात हो सकती थी। और वो खुले विचार के भी थे, आपको सुनते थे, जगह देते थे और आपकी भावनाओं को भी कद्र करते थे। अभी हमारे पूर्व के एक वक्ता ने कहा कि वो क्रिटिसिज्म को पसंद करते थे, सही मायने में पसंद करते थे। उनकी और एक बड़ी खूबी थी, उनका कहना था कि कोई काम जब तक अंतिम परिणाम तक नहीं पहुंचा तब तक वो काम नहीं है, वो पूरा नहीं हुआ। जैसे आप सिर्फ कोई चिट्ठी साइन करके बोले कि नहीं ये हमने प्रोजेक्ट सैंक्शन कर दिया, तो उनका कहना था कि नहीं, जब तक वो बिल्डिंग है, बिल्डिंग बन नहीं गया, उसमें पढ़ाई नहीं शुरू हो गई, बच्चे जाने नहीं लगे, टीचर नहीं आ गया, तब तक सिर्फ बिल्डिंग बनाना हमारा काम नहीं है, हमारा काम है उसको फंक्शनल करना। सर में सादगी तो गजब की थी, कभी उनको हमने नहीं देखा कि कोई बहुत तड़क भड़क में रहे। बहुत साधारण वेशभूषा भी साधारण रखते थे, खाने पीने में भी साधारण थे। और उनकी हंसी भी मुझे इस मौके पर याद आ रही है। उतना खुल के वही इंसान हंस सकता है जो दिल का साफ हो, अदरवाइज लोग मुस्कुराने में भी डरते हैं, देखते हैं। उससे बड़ी चीज, सबसे बड़ी चीज जो उनमें था, एक अपनत्व था, एक उनकी अपनी एक विचारधारा थी, थोड़ा सा लेफ्टिस्ट विचारधारा था उनका, आप कह सकते हैं। वो गरीबों के प्रति, अगर वो गरीबों के प्रति संवेदनशील थे तो उससे लगता है लोगों को जेएनयू के थे तो ऐसा लगता है कि वो थोड़ा वामपंथ की ओर थे। लेकिन सबों के प्रति, सबों को मिला जुला कर लेकर चलना और हर जगह अपने सिस्टम को क्रिटिसाइज करना, ये कम लोगों में इतनी क्षमता होती है कि हम अपनी कमियों को लोगों के बीच लेकर के जाएं और उनसे निदान मांगे। यह सर की एक बहुत बड़ी खूबी थी कि वो अपने सेल्फ क्रिटिक्स थे। वो बताते थे कि हमारे डिपार्टमेंट में, हमारे कार्यालय में किस तरह की गड़बड़ी है और उसको कैसे ठीक करेंगे। आमतौर पे लोग सोचते हैं जैसा चल रहा है चलने दो, अपना टेन्योर काट के निकल जाओ, बाकी तनाव लेने से सेहत खराब हो जाएगी, अनावश्यक परेशान होंगे। तो मैंने सर के विचारधारा को अपनाया और आज तक उस पे चलने की कोशिश करता रहा। बहुत सारे लोगों के परिवार, बहुत सारे लोगों की परेशानी, बहुत सारे लोगों को खटकता हूँ, लेकिन जो सेटिस्फेक्शन मिलता है उस किसी काम को पूरा करके, किसी आदमी के आंसू पोंछ के, किसी आदमी का कार्य करके, वह सर का सही मायने में सर के लिए वो सच्ची श्रद्धांजलि यही है कि उनकी विचारधारा को अपनाया जाए और जो पाथ उन्होंने दिखाया उस पाथ पे हम लोग चलें। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, सब लोगों को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much for your touching tribute, your reflections on the remarkable journey of Sri Srivastava and his enduring impact on public service. वो चल बसे मगर रुख हवाओं का बदल दिया, इंसाफ, सेवा और ईमानदारी का मतलब समझा दिया। आज भी जब फाइलें खुलती हैं दफ्तरों में, याद आती है वो हस्ती जो कुछ अलग थी सफ़रों में। श्रद्धांजलि है उन्हें जिनकी याद अमर है, वो गए नहीं बस आसमान के तारे बनकर सिहर हैं। Now we move on to the next session. I would like to invite Roshni, daughter of Shri Manoj Srivastav, to conduct the next session. Thank you.
For my family and myself, this memorial lecture is more than a tribute. It is a way of keeping my father's spirit alive in the world. As an IAS officer, he believed that true service lay not in power or position, but in the courage to stand for what is right, the compassion to serve those in need, and the integrity to act without fear or fervor. Today, we are deeply honored to recognize a few remarkable individuals whose actions echo these values. Their bravery, their quiet sacrifices, and their tireless contribution to society remind us that the ideals my father lived by are not just memories. They are living forces that continue to inspire and guide. In celebrating them, we also celebrate the best of what my father believed humanity could be. गिरते हैं शहसवार ही मैदाने जंग में, वो तिफल ही क्या गिरे जो घुटनों के बल चले। घायल तो यहाँ हर परिंदा है, मगर जो फिर से उड़ सका वही जिंदा है। We move on to the award segment. Justice delayed is justice denied. This famous legal maxim encapsulates the story of Srimati Neelam and Shri Shekhar Krishnamurthy, who spent over 2 decades seeking justice after they lost their children, Unnati and Ujjwal, to the devastating fire that engulfed Upahar cinema. Neelam and Shekhar Krishnamurthy, the couple whose story has inspired Netflix's Trial by Fire, and have been seeking justice for their children and other affected families ever since. More than 28 years ago, the Upahar fire tragedy in the national capital took the lives of 59 people who died of asphyxiation, while a further 103 people were seriously injured in the ensuing stampede. On 13 June 1997, during a screening of film Border, a massive fire broke out in Upahar Cinema, located in the Green Park area of South Delhi. With the cinema hall engulfed in smoke, the establishment lost power and there was total chaos. While those in the lower floor could escape, people seated in the balcony were trapped. Making matters worse, fire tenders took more than an hour to reach the location. There were many lapses on the part of the establishments and its owners Sushil and Gopal Ansal that cost 59 people their lives. They spoke to others who lost their loved ones, those who had survived the tragedy, and learned the horrific fact that exists for those watching the film on the balcony were locked. With tears turning to anger, they decided to take legal action against the owners of Upahar Cinema. Based on the legal advice of advocate Sri KTS Tulsi, who took up their cause pro bono, the Association of Victims of Upahar Tragedy, AVUT, was formed. Sadly, in the pursuit of justice, they were met with frequent court adjournments, puzzling legal applications from the defendants, loss of original court records, incompetence from the state, and even evidence tampering, which saw the trial suffering inordinate delays. The couple also suffered physical intimidation, verbal abuse, and years of derision during this time. In 2015, the Supreme Court raised the period of imprisonment for the Ansal brothers from 1 to 2 years, but added that if the convicts paid a fine of rupees 30 crore each within 3 months, they wouldn't have to serve jail time anymore, given their age. Srimati Neelam recalled that it was the only time she cried. Finally, in November 2021, a Delhi court sentenced both brothers to 7 years simple imprisonment in a separate case related to evidence tampering. The court also imposed a fine of rupees 2.5 crore on each brother. However, in July 2022, another Delhi trial court ordered their release against the jail term already undergone by them since November 2021. We empathize with Association of Victims of Upahar tragedy. Many lives were lost, which can never be compensated. But you must understand that penal policy is not about retribution. We have to consider their age, the Ansal's age. You have suffered, but they have also suffered, the judge said. In September 2022, Avut moved the Delhi High Court against the trial court order. But they refused to give up their legal battle. Neelam and Shekharji says, we didn't spend as much time with our children on this earth as we have seeking justice for their murders. We're serving a living death sentence. It has been 26 years and it is still on. She said, I want to fight, and that is what we have been doing and will keep doing. Now I invite on stage the State Election Commission, Commissioner Dr. Deepak Prasad, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's with due humility and heartfelt gratitude that Mr. Krishnamurthy and I accept this honor from Equity Foundation. I accept an organization that has done exceptional work in championing the rights and well-being of women and children. This recognition is even more meaningful as it comes in the sacred memory of Mr. Manoj Srivastava, a man whose legacy of service and integrity continues to inspire many. To be felicitated in his name is a privilege we accept with both reverence and responsibility. This recognition is more than an award. It is a tribute to the memory of our children, Unnati and Ujjwal, and to all those innocent lives that should never have been lost. The absence has become the presence that guides our every step towards justice, safety, and accountability. Your work uplifts the very cause that drives us to build a nation where every child is protected and every woman empowered. We accept this honor, not just in our name, but in theirs, and in the name of every parent who has fought for a safer future. Thank you for the moment, and thank you for the meaningful work that you continue to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. When it comes to inclusion, India still has a long way to go in making way for people with disabilities, from daily challenges to the stigma that the differently abled face. India needs to undergo a complete transformation. The biggest push for change has come from people who have faced the challenges themselves. Though the journey is still marred by ups and downs, a few women leaders who themselves have suffered disability are ferociously supporting their cause and creating awareness. Kumari Vaishnavi was born in 1988. In the year 1996, at the age of 8, she was diagnosed with locomotor or orthopedic disability, which is caused by a type of tumor. She is able to walk with the support of crutches. In the face of disability and the challenge and stigma attached to it, she took up the mantle of change and not only reinvented her life, but went on to change the lives of others as well. She established Vaishno Swalamban, an NGO for the specially abled, in the year 2008 that helps fight against discrimination towards the girl child, marginalization of the differently abled, oppression of women, and lack of basic health care. For the past 12 years, Vaishnavi is working to empower the lives of disabled people. She is the secretary of Vaishno Swalamban. It's very inspiring how she never ever allowed her disability to become an impediment in how she lived her life. Not only did she fight for her own dreams, she made it possible for many others who are like her to help those with disabilities live with dignity and equal opportunity. From 2016, she has been organizing Anokha Vivah, a concept of mass wedding ceremony for disabled individuals for the promotion of marriage of specially abled. It offers financial incentives to couples where at least one partner has a disability. So far, 60 couples have been married through Anokha Vivah, and as a result of this initiative, the number of Divyang couple marriages has increased in Bihar. But Vaishnavi realizes that empowering the differently abled is an uphill task. For this, attitude needs to change and awareness needs to be raised in the society. She also participated in the National Sports Ab Olympics in 2008, in which she won the bronze medal. She became a source of inspiration for women with disabilities by winning the gold medal in 2010. She has proved that persons with disabilities should be seen for what they can do instead of what they cannot. Now I invite on stage Srimati Kiran Ghai ma'am, former head of Department Hindi, Patna University, and the former member of Legislative Council, to present the award to Ms. Vaishnavi. Thank you, ma'am. We don't have fixed duty hours. Whenever we receive information about missing kids, we just leave our homes. There are days when we don't see our kids. Showing up the humanitarian side of Delhi Police, 2 of its women head constables in exemplary work reunited 104 missing children with their families in just 9 months. Head constables Ms. Seema Devi and Ms. Suman Hudda pulled off a commendable feat in tracing 104 missing children in the last 9 months. These 2 head constables are posted in the anti-human trafficking unit of the Delhi Police in the Outer North District. The marathon of cases took them across northern India's states of Bihar, Uttar Pradesh and Haryana, dealing with poor quality photographs, reticent locals, unfamiliar locations and language barriers. The rescues took place between March and November under Operation Milap. Their challenges were many, including the families not having recent photographs of the children, language barriers, unfamiliar locations and reticent locals in the places they visited in other states. There were cases when phone numbers that the children had used to contact people were switched off. In such instances, they took the help of the cyber team to determine the last location of the phone. Despite such impediments, the duo successfully tracked down the children and reunited them with their families. The rescued children were between the age group of 4 to 17 years. The constables, who are mothers themselves, expressed their dedication to continuing the work and aiming to reunite even more children with their families, hoping to reach a target of 200 or more in a year. Despite facing difficulties in finding the children, including a lack of proper information and outdated photographs, their commitment and perseverance resulted in a significant achievement. Ms. Hudda and Ms. Suman, who joined the AHTU in March, expressed their sense of pride and relief when reuniting children with their families. We are extremely proud of the efforts made by Ms. Seema and Ms. Suman in Operation Milap. Their achievements strengthen the commitment of other organizations to fighting child trafficking and protecting their community. We salute these two brave hearts for the humanitarian effort. I now call upon Mr. Alok Raj, who is a 1990 batch Bihar Cadre IPS officer and is currently the DG CMD, Bihar Police Building Construction Corporation, to present the award. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Dr. Bhim Singh Bhavesh is a social worker who is working for the Musahars and Dalits in the Bhojpur district of Bihar. He is the patron of Nai Asha, a not-for-profit organization that provides educational, vocational training, healthcare, advocacy, and life skills for young girls and women. Since the last 2 decades, he has been trying to bring the Musahars into the mainstream of society through a campaign which he initiated in 2003 in Jawahar Tola Musahar Toli Ara to uplift the Musahar community. Gradually, the campaign expanded to 9 Musahar Tolas in Ara town in Bhojpur and also in Buxar. His initiatives has resulted in the construction of community centers, drainage systems, and access to clean drinking water in many Musahar tolas. He has made efforts to create educational environment for the Musahars by connecting them with Setu Kendra and Gaon Padhe Gaon Badhe campaign. He has provided the facility of library or reading rooms as a part of this campaign. He has also facilitated the enrollment of several children in ITI and graduate courses. Due to his efforts, 92 students from the class 8th of Government and Minority School succeeded in the National Means Cum Merit Scholarship NMMS. Due to his consistent efforts, these students will receive financial assistance throughout their 9th to 12th standards. They have received rupees 12,000 annually since 2019 to 2023. Dr. Bhavesh has helped approximately 4,000 families open bank accounts. This initiative has increased awareness about banking among the Musahar community. He established sewing centers in 15 Musahar localities of Bhojpur district, providing training to young women. His efforts have led to better livelihood opportunities, and Dr. Bhavesh, in collaboration with the Labor Department, facilitated the issuance of around 900 labor cards for laborers from various districts. He organized campaigns to eliminate the practice of dole kadhi. Dr. Bhavesh actively campaigned against the prevalent custom of dole kadhi, where young girls from poor families are sent to their future in-laws' houses even before their marriage. This custom has resulted in unmarried girls becoming pregnant, leading to abandonment. The campaign has successfully stopped more than half a dozen such marriages so far. Dr. Bhavesh has written several books, but his book titled Hashiye Par Hasrat, based on the life and struggles of the Musahar community, has gained popularity. He is also the recipient of Padma Shri Award 2025. Now I would like to invite on stage Shri Manikant Thakur sir, noted and renowned journalist and ex-senior correspondent BBC.
भीम सिंह भावेश, बहुत लोग नहीं जानते होंगे कि यह जो नाम है और इनका जो काम है वो कितना व्यापक और कितना ज़रूरी है, था समाज के लिए और है भी। ये नहीं जानते हुए इन्होंने बिना किसी प्रचार के, बिना ये इस लोभ के कि बहुत सारे लोग मुझे जान सकें, इन्होंने जितना काम किया है और जितने बड़े पैमाने पर काम किया है और जितनी गहराई में उतर के काम किया है, बहुत कम लोग ऐसा कर पाते हैं। आज अगर मनोज श्रीवास्तव जी को अगर सच्ची श्रद्धांजलि की बात हो तो निश्चित रूप से जहां उन्होंने डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट के रूप में काम किया भोजपुर में, वहां से भीम सिंह भावेश ने ऐसा काम कर दिखाया है। और आज जो यहां हम लोगों ने सम्मानित किया है, ये उनके लिए भी मैं समझता हूं कि सबसे बड़ी श्रद्धांजलि है। बहुत बहुत आभार आप सबका।
धन्यवाद सर। आज के इस कार्यक्रम में मुझे सूचित करने के लिए आदरणीय नीना श्रीवास्तव जी, निशा मोहन झा जी जो मुझे हमेशा प्रेरित करती रहती हैं, रजनीश कुमार जी, लोकेश कुमार जी, आलोक कुमार जी, विवेक कुमार सिंह जी, मेरे मित्र टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया के असिस्टेंट एडिटर मदन कुमार सिंह जी, और आज के प्रमुख वक्ता और शास्त्री सुब्रमण्यम साहब। मैं उन दिनों आरा से मैं हूँ जब आदरणीय मनोज श्रीवास्तव सर भोज के डीएम हुआ करते थे, तो मैं 7 से स्नातकोत्तर की डिग्री ले रहा था। उन दिनों बड़ी चर्चित थे मनोज श्रीवास्तव सर। अभी आप लोग चर्चा के क्रम में सुने कि बरतुआरी में यानी लगन में जहां जाते हैं, शादी विवाह में भी जाते हैं, और गांव के लोग भी जब चर्चा कर रहे हो जिस जिला पदाधिकारी के, उनकी लोकप्रियता क्या होगी। मैं उनका एक छोटा एक संस्मरण शेयर करना चाहता हूं। उन दिनों ऐसे तो अभी मेरी 4 किताबें, उन दिनों कविताएं लिखता था। आरा के डॉक्टर प्रदीप सिंह पंकज थे, या बड़े भाई दीपक श्रीवास्तव जी भी आए हुए हैं। वहाँ उन दिनों प्रशासन के गणतंत्र दिवस के अवसर पर प्रशासन की एक अलग कवि गोष्ठी होती थी गणतंत्र दिवस की पूर्व संध्या पर, और आम पब्लिक का अलग होता था। कवि सम्मेलन दोनों जगह अलग अलग होता था। मनोज कुमार श्रीवास्तव साहब उस समय जो आयोजन करते थे पब्लिक की ओर से, डॉक्टर प्रदीप सिंह पंकज और उनकी टीम को बुलाए और बोले कि दोनों लोगों का लक्ष्य एक ही है कि 25 जनवरी को कवि सम्मेलन कराना है, तो एक जगह क्यों नहीं आप लोग कराते हैं। डॉक्टर प्रदीप सिंह पंकज थोड़े अक्खड़ प्रवृत्ति के थे। उन्होंने के कहा कि हम क्या कराएं, जिला प्रशासन के साथ कराया जाता है तो जिला प्रशासन के लोग आते हैं, डीएम साहब जब तक रहते हैं तब तक लोग रहते हैं, और डीएम साहब के जाते पूरा काफिला उनका निकल जाता है। अब कभी लोग बैठ करके झेलते रहते हैं, तो इससे क्या फायदा है, आप लोग अपना कराइए। मनोज कुमार श्रीवास्तव सर ने कहा कि नहीं, डीएम साहब नहीं जाएंगे और आप लोग एक ही साथ कराइए। और उसके बाद कवि सम्मेलन चला, 11 बजे 12 रात देर रात तक चला, चाय कॉफी चलता रहा, और तत्कालीन जिला पदाधिकारी मनोज कुमार श्रीवास्तव सर बैठे रहे वहां। उसके बाद से आज तक प्रशासन और पब्लिक का एक साथ कवि सम्मेलन भोजपुर में होता है। उनका आज से करीब 37-38 साल यानी 4 दशक होने जा रहे हैं। यह पहली घटना थी, जैसा कि उर्मिलेश जी ने भी कहा, कि उनके स्थानांतरण के बाद बहुत जबरदस्त आंदोलन हुआ भोजपुर में। स्वतः स्फूर्त आंदोलन था, और वास्तव में हमारे पूर्व हमें सम्मानित करने वाले वक्ता ने जो कहा, और उनके स्मृतियों से जुड़े हुए कई बातें हैं। कार्नेल यूनिवर्सिटी में जब वे अध्ययन कर रहे थे, हमारे मित्र मदन कुमार जी यूएस में गए हुए थे, कई संस्कार उनके संस्मरण उनके शेयर किए, उसमें काफी समय लग जाएंगे। मैं सिर्फ इतना ही कहकर अपने लोकप्रिय पूर्व जिला पदाधिकारी आदरणीय मनोज कुमार श्रीवास्तव जी को श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करता हूं कि वे आम से खास तक के चहेता थे। उनको एक बार पुनः अपना वंदन अर्पित करता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Many women leaders have championed women's rights and gender equality through history and in the present day. Bihar's journey towards gender equality owes much to the contributions of these individuals who challenged the status quo and shaped the state's fight for justice and inclusivity. While significant progress has been made, the Global Gender Gap Report, where India ranked 127th out of 146 countries, reminds us of the work still required. Drawing inspiration from these pioneers, Bihar must continue to dismantle systemic barriers with a vision of an equitable future where every individual, regardless of gender, can thrive. Meet Dr. Sharad Kumari. She is associated with ActionAid Association for the last 21 years and is presently working as program manager in the regional office, Bihar. She has been very closely associated with the feminist movement in the state. She is the former General Secretary, Bihar Mahila Samaj, NFIW. In this capacity, she raised strong voice on the issues of working women and women laborers in the unorganized sector and promoted and trained young women leaders. She is an acclaimed trainer on gender, women rights, child rights, and Panchayati Raj. She has worked extensively with Dalit, Pasmanda Muslim, and denotified tribes. She has played an important role in facilitating various community-led processes like social audits, public hearings, and campaigns like Beti Zindabad over the years. She also has a wide experience of working on the issue of disaster management in the state. Her engagement with the tribal communities of Jharkhand has led to the formation of statewide network of traditional leaders hailing from the 5th schedule areas. She has organized a series of awareness campaigns across Bihar and Jharkhand against child sexual abuse involving social workers, community organizations, media, and children. A report titled Teri Meri Uski Baat was released during this time. She has been continuously working for the protection and promotion of women and children's rights through legal representation, advocacy, and training. She has worked tirelessly to raise awareness about the experience of women who have suffered domestic violence and to challenge the systemic inequalities they face. She has also done counseling of women and girls affected from trauma of domestic violence. She has done counseling of victims of domestic violence for emotional trauma, depression, anxiety, self-harm, or other mental health needs. From 2019 to 2024, she led a joint campaign by ActionAid Association and UNICEF under Child Protection Scheme focusing on child marriage, child labor, child trafficking, and the empowerment of adolescents, both girls and boys. What we've learned from working closely with her during our program is a common thread. These women are fighters. They've built their careers on sheer hard work and early wins. Now I would like to invite on stage Professor Santosh Kumar Sir, who's the former senior professor of the Patna University.
बहुत शुक्रिया इक्विटी फाउंडेशन को कि एक बहुत छोटे से काम को आपने एक बड़े नज़रिए से देखा है। इस काम के लिए कि एक सच्चाई से समाज के हर कमज़ोर तबके के साथ खड़े होने के लिए माता पिता ने सिखाया था। आज इस अवार्ड ने जवाबदेही को बरकरार रखने का आदेश दिया है मुझे, कि जब तक दम है तब तक उस जवाबदेही को जहाँ तक संभव है निभाते रहना है। नीना दी से प्रॉमिस है कि कोशिश करूँगी कि मैं इस जवाबदेही में हमेशा खरा उतरूँ। सर को याद करते हुए एक लाइन कहना चाहूँगी कि जब पंचायती राज व्यवस्था की शुरुआत हुई थी बिहार में, तो नए नए जनप्रतिनिधियों को क्या उनकी ड्यूटी है और क्या उनका राइट है, कैसे काम होना चाहिए, इसको लेके एक्शन एड ने एक ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम पूरा अभियान की तरह चलाया था। और शुरुआती दौर में जब जनप्रतिनिधियों को इसकी बुलाहट जाती थी तो वो आना नहीं चाहते थे ट्रेनिंग में कि क्या होना है। सर उस समय पंचायती राज के प्रधान सचिव थे और हमारे साथी ने उनसे कहा कि सर देखिए ना, लोगों को बुलाते हैं, लोग सीखना नहीं चाहते हैं, या क्या कारण है लोग नहीं आते हैं। तो उन्होंने कहा कि अब अगले दिन कहाँ होना है, तो फुलवारी ब्लॉक में होना है। 60 का समूह बना था ट्रेनिंग देने के लिए, क्योंकि ट्रेनिंग में उससे ज़्यादा लोग रहें तो नहीं हो सकता है व्यवस्था भी। सर का क्या आदेश गया होगा कि मैं ट्रेनर के रूप में थी उस समय, क्या आदेश गया होगा कि फुलवारी ब्लॉक के सारे जनप्रतिनिधि उस दिन उपलब्ध थे। और वो व्यवस्था नहीं थी, बेंच नहीं, डेस्क पर मेरे जैसे भी लंबे आदमी को खड़े होके, क्योंकि माइक भी नहीं था, मुझे वो ट्रेनिंग देनी पड़ी, क्योंकि माइक भी काम नहीं कर रहा था, तो डेस्क पर खड़े होके मुझे वो ट्रेनिंग देनी पड़ी। मैं सिर्फ ये बता रहा हूँ कि छोटी सी छोटी जगहों पर छोटे से छोटे बिल्कुल चींटी की तरह भी जो समाज के लिए काम कर रहा है, उसके साथ भी जब कोई पदाधिकारी खड़ा होता है, इससे बड़ा ये जो कॉम्बिनेशन, और आज तक जो मैंने काम किया कि जहाँ सामाजिक काम करने वाले साथी और पदाधिकारी दोनों साथ मिल जाते हैं, उस समाज को बदलने से कोई नहीं रोक सकता है। यह बनता रहे, यह चलता रहे, मैं जवाबदेही को आगे भी निभा सकूं, इसका शुक्रिया। और यहाँ मेरे साथियों के साथ साथ मेरे लिए गर्व की बात है कि मेरे गुरु सब भी यहाँ बैठे हैं जिन्होंने मुझे पढ़ाया है, तो मैं उनका ही आशीर्वाद है कि मैं शायद इस लायक यहाँ खड़ी हूँ। बहुत शुक्रिया।
Shri Santosh K. Rai, IAS. He comes from Samastipur district of Bihar. Born and brought up in a humble family background, he passed his 10th and 12th with science background from the Bihar board. After that, he did BA in political science from Mithila University, Darbhanga. Santosh Kumar Rai always wanted to bring change in society as a youth and is now actually doing it. Now he is actually trying to bring changes in society and the system in his place of posting in Arunachal, and has already succeeded to some extent. As Secretary and Controller of Examinations, Arunachal Pradesh Staff Selection Board, he has brought about many ground changes. Under his leadership, the board has conducted 8 examinations in 1 year and declared the results of all in just a few hours. Since then, the board has broken many of its own records and created new records. Keeping in view this record of Staff Selection Board, Arunachal government has announced Chief Minister's Award for Excellence in Public Administration this year to Staff Selection Board. He was previously posted as the District Magistrate, Delhi. He's making exceptional efforts towards preparing students from Bihar for the civil services as part of NACS. Mr. Rai now guides many students in association with Bihar National Association of Civil Servants. He says, Bihar and Jharkhand are the states which are backwards in development. So we guide students aspiring to appear in civil services of both the states through this platform. He also gives free guidance for IIT in Samastipur and IITians of NACS for students of Samastipur who have cleared intermediate from Bihar board. He is currently posted as Deputy Commissioner MCD Najafgarh Zone. He says, मुश्किलें हैं, लेकिन चुनौतियां में ही तो मौका है। माना कि अंधेरा घना है, पर दिया जलाने से किसने रोका है। Now I would like to call upon Shri Neelmani sir, who's the former DGP, Bihar, to present the award to sir. On behalf of the entire Srivastava family, I feel honored to propose this vote of thanks. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all present with us today for gracing the occasion and making this memorial lecture special. Without your presence, love, and support, this event would not have been possible. It is in moments like these that we find solace in each other's company, and I'm incredibly grateful to each of you for being here to celebrate a life that meant so much to us all. Papa was a remarkable man whose kindness, wisdom, and unwavering strength touched everyone he met. His life was a testament to the power of love and generosity, and it is heartwarming to see so many of you who were touched by his spirit. I want to express my deepest gratitude to those who have shared their memories and stories of Papa. Each story, each word of kindness has painted a fuller picture of a man who lived his life with integrity and love. Your reflections have been a source of great comfort and have reminded us of the many ways in which he enriched our lives. We would like to express our deep sense of gratitude to Shri Arvind Subramanian sir for taking out time from his hectic schedule, for graciously accepting our invite and traveling all the way to Patna, and also for his deeply enlightening lecture delivered today. Thank you, sir. We would also like to express our heartfelt thanks to the esteemed and dear colleagues, batchmates, and friends of Papa for taking out time from their busy schedule and gracing us with their presence and for the moving tributes to Papa. It is these experiences and memories of Papa shared by his friends, colleagues, and seniors which we strive to protect with the purpose of carrying his legacy forward as long as we can. We would also like to extend our heartfelt gratitude and congratulations to the recipients of the Manoj Srivastava Award and the senior esteemed guests who presented these awards. We extend our sincerest thanks to Shri Amrit Lal Meena Uncle, the Honorable Chief Secretary Bihar, Srimati Harjot Kaur Aunty, and Shri Animesh Parashar Sir, Dr. Satyapal Singh Meena Sir, and Shri Pranav Chaudhary Uncle for their utmost support, guidance, and encouragement in making this event possible. We are also immensely thankful to Shri P.K. Sinha Uncle, Narendra Ji of Frontline Group, Bidco, and Larsen and Tubro, and several other friends who played a key role in organizing and making today's event possible. We are also very grateful to the entire team and support staff of Hotel Maurya, especially Shri B.D. Singh Sir, Shri C.P. Sinha Ji, Shri Pathak Ji, Ms. Neelam Singh Ma'am, Shri Abhishek Ji, and Shri Ashish Ji, without whose support this event would not have been possible. We are also very thankful to Shri Harmeet Singh, Shri Azmi, Shri Rohit, the team of Guru Nanak decorators for handling the live event, technical support, and cameras. We must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Mr. Sumit Poddar and Mr. Deepak Poddar and his entire team for taking care of the stage, light, flowers, and banners. We are also very grateful to the entire team of Equity Foundation, especially Mr. Kumar Saurav and Mr. Kumar Gaurav for their constant support in organizing the event. We would also like to extend our sincere thanks to those from the media who have gathered today to cover the event. Last but not the least, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the colleagues, family, and friends who are present here, and also to the many who have connected virtually, without whose love and support this would not have been possible. To those who travel from near and far to be with us, despite the terrible weather, your efforts are deeply appreciated. Your presence here speaks volumes about the respect and admiration you held for our father. It is a comfort to know that his legacy continues through the lives he touched. As we say our final goodbyes, let us carry forward the lessons Papa taught us. Lessons of compassion, resilience, love, and always speaking truth to power. Though he may no longer be with us in body, his spirit will remain forever in our hearts. Let us end with playing thank you for once again for your love and support. It means more to us than words can express. I would now like all of you to kindly join us for high tea, please. Thank you.